The first thing Jack tried to do was to take out his magic staff and cast teleport, but nothing came out of his storage bag. He was unable to use any skill or access his inventory. Jack then noticed the true Janus, who just come into the room, simply watched him with a flat expression. Jack turned to the other true Janus in captivity. "Which one of you is the real one?" he asked. The Janus in captivity answered, "We both are." "What the hell does that mean?" Jack asked. The Janus in captivity didn't answer anymore. He instead turned to his other self. "Let him go. He has nothing to do with this." "He does now," the other Janus responded. "It's his fault to be a busybody." "Are you going to kill him?" "I'm still considering no. I think I have a better use for him." That geezer imparted his legacy to a foreign outworlder instead of his formal disciple. I am going to rectify that. Once I become an eternal grade, I am going to look for a way to extract that time sage out of him. So you both will remain here until my work is done." "What do you mean?" Jack asked. "Are you the one behind the assassination of the League faction's leaders?" The Janus outside didn't answer Jack's question. He instead asked, "Why do you think it is me?" Someone ambushed the team I sent to Palgros to investigate the assault on Blacksmith Circle's leader," Jack answered. "What does that have to do with me?" "Outside of my people and the Blacksmith Circle, only one other person knew about this investigative team and where they were heading. You. I told your younger self when he asked about it." You decided I am the one responsible based on that?" Janus asked. "No, but it gives me a reason to suspect you," Jack answered. I had a nagging feeling that something was wrong. "So, that trap in Hydron was a setup for Mayuro. It's a good thing I didn't bite. I didn't expect you to also sneak into my sanctum, though. Setting a trap for me while at the same time luring me out so you can break in here. I understand now why our teacher chose you for his legacy. Since you understand can I take it that you will no longer look for a way to take the time sage out of me?" Janus simply chuckled at hearing Jack's question. He had been working on the rune diagram controlling the prison force field while talking. He undid everything Jack had done and returned the rune diagram to its perfect condition. Jack asked Janus again if he was indeed the one responsible for the assassination, but Janus seemed to be no longer interested in further conversation. Jack turned and asked the other Janus in captivity, but that one also didn't give him any answer. He used his inspect on both Januses. The one in captivity was a level 80 rare elite grade. The one outside was a level 90 mythical plus grade. "What the hell does that plus sign mean?" Jack asked Penuel. She replied that she also didn't understand. The last time Jack saw the true Janus, he was a level 90 mythical grade. This should mean the one outside was the real one. The one in captivity was a clone, or was it? He was very puzzled by the situation, and the two assholes were not sharing any enlightenment. The Janus outside finally stopped working. He looked around the room to make sure nothing was out of place. After a short glance at Jack and the Janus in captivity, he left the room without a word. Once he was out, the Janus in captivity said, "I'm sorry. You shouldn't have gotten mixed up in this. Can you finally tell me what the hell is going on here?" Jack asked. "Are you or is he the one responsible for the death of the leaders of other League factions?" Janus sighed. He is, but it's a long story," he said again. "Do you see me going anywhere?" Jack said in annoyance. Janus sighed again. "It all started after we got the Eye of Ilios from you." "Hey man, are you going to pin the fault on me?" Jack asked. "That's not what I meant," Janus replied. "Are you already in captivity then? When I bring the Eye of Ilios here, are you going to let me tell the story, or are you going to keep on asking questions?" Janus asked with a peeved tone. "Oh, I'm sorry. Please proceed." Jack apologized. "Well, as I said, it all started after we got the Eye of Ilios," Janus resumed. "The initial reason we want that eye was, as we had mentioned. It was to look for where Magus hid his time sage legacy. But after learning that the legacy had been passed on to you, we were using the eye for another purpose." Jack nodded while his one hand pressed tightly against his mouth to prevent himself from interrupting. This other purpose was to look for a way to elevate ourselves into the eternal grade, Magus said. Jack was very itchy to ask what did this have to do with the assassination of the League faction's leaders, but he kept his mouth shut. After spending some time using the eye to look for something that can upgrade ourselves, we finally concluded, Janice said. There was no such thing. Okayuro, Jack said in his mind. But we continue to use that eye to observe things, including the war in Hydrorond. That's when we stumbled upon the truth of this world. When Jack gave him a questioning expression, Janice said, the conversation between the gods. The conversation that the gods had with you Outworlders before God of Hope died. We heard them Alayuro. To be honest, we should have known. There are signs everywhere. Especially after the Outworlders started appearing Gyuro, we took it rather hard. But after embracing the truth, we saw this world in a different light. Janice made another sigh before resuming his tale. We have been studying magic for a very long time. We, magicians, can be said to be the ones who are most accustomed to understanding mana. After learning the truth, we started delving deeper into the fabric of this universe. We started to better see the truth. We found many flaws. Now that we know this world is created by imperfect creatures instead of a perfect God, it makes more sense. While we were studying, the leader of the Alchemist Union came to visit. Our two factions always have a good relationship. Half of our members are also alchemists when they are not dabbling in magic. When the Alchemist Union's leader stood near us, we could sense something in him. Something similar to us. He possessed the same essence as us. An essence we know we can take. At that time, something clicked within us. We have always held some kind of resentment inside our hearts. Our teacher abandoned us. The persecution from other factions who think we are playing too much with the fabric of this world. The wariness against ambitious followers who wish to replace us. All this resentment burst like a dam breaking. Part of us wanted to take the essence from the Alchemist Union's leader, no matter the cost. Part of us didn't want him to get hurt. In the end, we split. Uhayuro split a euro? Jack couldn't help but ask. He couldn't understand what Janice meant. You are aware we have many clones, aren't you? Janice asked. Yes, a euro. We created those clones using a modified technique. Not a spell, hence they have no cooldown. It happens by accident actually, because we are tempering with reality when we try to understand the time magic. It was an effort to become a time sage by ourselves when our teacher abandoned us. Anyway, these clones were like a variation of us from different timelines which we forced to exist in ours. They were the inferior versions, though, because they could be said to be just copies of those other timeline existences. Do you get this? Jack asked Penuel, who shrugged in response. Anyway, the same thing happened then, Janice continued. Two of us. One who decided to not succumb to the temptation, and one who decided to no longer play by the rule of this world, came into being at the same time. We split. I carry most of the good emotions while he took with him all the baggage of our resentment, insecurity, and fear, different than before. The two of us are not copies of other timelines. We are both entities of this existence. Hence, both of us are real, not clones. I see your grade and level is lower than when I brought the Eye of Ilios, Jack said. I suppose during your split, he took most of the power. He was weaker than that when we split. But yes, he took most of the power. His level was reduced to level 80, but his grade remained mythical, while I was downgraded to level 80 rare elite. What about the leader of the Alchemist Union? He was there when you split, wasn't he? He Wasayuro, my other self, wasted no time to carry out his intention. He assaulted our unsuspecting friend. The leader of the Alchemist Union was just a level 70 rare elite. He also didn't have much experience in combat. Thus, he was quickly defeated. You just stood and watched? Jack asked. Janice silence gave Jack his answer. I might have inherited our good emotions, but it turned out it was not enough to spring me into action. I was horrified, but I was also intrigued about what might happen. When the leader of the Alchemist Union fell, I saw my other self reach into him. I was as if he was leeching the dead body. I knew then there was a way for us to increase our grades. This is the way, by stealing the essence of others who have the same codes as us. By accumulating these essences into our own, we will finally become an eternal being. And perhaps one day becoming divine. I should be happy. I should be elated with this revelation. But seeing the dead body of who used to be my friend lying there, while my other self reveled in naked contentment on his fill, I realized then what a terrible mistake I had committed. I should have stopped him. If he was given free rein, he would become a monster that ends us all. I can't have this on my conscience. I attacked him then, but he was stronger than me. Even stronger after he absorbed the essence from the Alchemist Union leader's essence. In the end, he overpowered me and locked me inside here. Since then, he had gone around, murdering the other League faction leaders who had the same codes. He picked off the weak ones first. He had grown much stronger since then. Yeah, no shit, Jack said. The evil Janus had returned to his original level, which was level 90. Not to mention, there was a frickin' plus sign next to his mythical grade description. He supposed that meant he was halfway or more than halfway to the eternal grade already. In other words, he was stronger than the average mythical grade being. I believe it will be harder for him to act from now on. The murders should have drawn the attention of the other League factions. It won't be as easy as when he was still catching them off guard. This is also the reason you are here, isn't it? Because people start to pay heed to these incidents. That's right, but everyone is still unsure about what they are dealing with, Jack said. Do you know how many more kills he needs to get to the eternal grade? Jack asked. I can't tell for sure, Janus answered. But I reckon if he absorbed essences from strong leaders, I suppose maybe 2 or 3 more. Which means we don't have much to me a euro. Oh fuck a euro? Jack uttered. What's wrong? Janus and Penuel asked at the same time. Something is very wrong, Jack thought while sitting down weakly. He wasn't going to be able to attend the Outworlders convention. In between the Jagera region and the Khan region was a long valley flanked by 2 hill chains. This valley was named Kakra Valley. One particular spot in this valley was an enormous dome-shaped recess. It was as if a meteorite had crashed into that spot a long time ago and created a giant crater. This crater was called the Kakra Basin. It was believed that this basin used to contain water. It was dry now. This was the place where Master held the Outworlders convention. It was nearly dawn on the day of the convention. The place was crowded with people. All of them were players. Even since the night before, the place was already filled to the brim. More and more players arrived this morning. Many had to stand at the hills by the basin's sides. Average monsters of levels 30 to 40 inhabited this place. They had been eradicated since the day before. Any monster that spawned was soon slain again. However, if too many people occupied the area until no available space for the monsters to spawn, they stopped spawning. Hence, the players mostly waited in boredom. Some went away from the crowd to find monsters to farm while waiting. Though the basin and its direct surroundings were inhabited by these low-level monsters, the areas leading to this place were infested with monsters of level 50 and above. Because of that, the lowest level of the players who gathered here was around level 50. Around 30% had levels above 60, and only a handful with levels above 70. Most of these high-level players were guild members. Jeannie and John looked at the mass in the distance. There were probably 3 million players there, and more were still arriving. If all these players joined Liguridium's side, then it would tip the scale back to Master's favor again. John applauded the enemy for resorting to this method to recover their manpower, but he was not going to let them have their way. They had tasked some of their guild members and their allied guild members to scout the surrounding regions, making sure Master didn't hide any army. The scouts reported that they saw no natives around these regions, only players. They weren't afraid if they only had to go against players. Worldmaker might have strong members and many followers, but their guild was also strong and had plenty of allies. If they had to go toe-to-toe, their chance of winning was still higher. The question was the mass who had gathered here. They were mostly independent players or small guilds, but their collective number was massive. The side that won today would be the side that gained these people's support. When John and the others arrived, people opened the way for them. This was because their group was headed by 4 guilds that sat at the top of 4 countries. Everlasting Heavenly Legends from Themisphere, Cipher Flight from Verimer, Saint Edge from Sangrod, and Licht Squad from Palgrost. Behind them were members from many other prominent guilds. Wicked Witches, Dogs of War, True Death Associates, Corporate United, White Scarfs, Black Cloak, Crowd of Sins, Evil Breakers, and Offline Beasts. Several other smaller guilds from all 7 countries were also with them. These were the guilds who had committed to band with them to go up against Worldmaker's ambition. Other Themisphere guilds who had guild headquarters had arrived earlier. They were the Jackal Crew, Gluttonous Despot, 6 Rings of Prosperity, Warriors of Solidarity, and a guild called Prodigious Chronicler. Prodigious Chronicler was the guild that took over the empty headquarters spot when Death Associates left Themisphere for Orbor. These guilds might be inclined to support Themisphere, but they were not dedicated. Depending on what they hear today, they might switch to the other side. As the host of this convention, Worldmaker and its allies were already here since the day before. They gathered at the center of the basin where they set up an elevated platform as a stage. 2 lavish chairs were placed on that stage. Mistress was sitting in one. No one needed to wonder who the other chair was for. Master was nowhere to be seen, though. Linda was the one supervising all the preparation. John and Jeannie went up to just before the stage, where they were stopped by a row of Worldmaker's members. Their guilds had been at odds with one another for a long time. Both sides' members had been in contact with each other on multiple occasions. And by contact, the definition here was pummeling one another till the other side turned to dust and went back to the rebirth portal. Thus, the 2 sides looked ready to lunge at each other the moment they came into eye contact. Still, they were disciplined enough to not make any move without their leader's approval. "You've finally arrived. Cutting it so close. I thought at first you were not interested in joining this convention." Linda greeted John from above. "Hee, you should know I won't let go of the chance to cause some ruckus," John returned. "Hello, dear," Jonathan greeted his wife. "I've nothing to say to you," Linda replied curtly. John simply chuckled at the exchange. He asked Linda, "Where is your master?" He purposely said your master instead of just master. This subtle distinction slyly insinuated Linda as a slave. "Is that how you talk to your mother?" Linda asked. "Is trying to murder your son and your son's friends a motherly act?" John shot back. Most of Everlasting Heavenly Legends core members knew of John's relationship with Linda, but many others, especially players of other guilds, didn't. This was the same for Worldmaker's members. All these people now looked between John and Linda with gaping mouths. "You know I do this for your good," Linda continued. "You know that ain't true." John wasn't backing down. "When this is all over, you will see I am right. If your master gets what he wants, you will see that I am right." "You are very stubborn." Linda shook her head. "I wonder where I get it from," John returned. "How about this? We used to bet against each other. Let's make a bet." "What bet?" Linda asked. "This convention. If your side gains more support, I will do what you want. If my side wins, you will leave master's service." "Hey, are you insane?" Jeannie nudged John. John signaled her not to worry. Linda seemed to be considering the offer. She replied, "Let's change the condition. In the coming war between your alliance of countries against ours, if your side wins the war, I will quit being master's tactician. If we win, you will come over to my side." "What's the matter, mother?" "No confidence in getting the support of the people who gather here." John ridiculed. "Right back at you. You have no confidence to win the coming war." Linda asked back. "Fine. Let's do it your way. Our bet will be the outcome of the coming war," John said. "So, seriously now, where is your master? Don't tell me he is not attending this convention he organized. Is he?" "He will be here," Linda replied. "What are you looking for?" John asked. Don't play coy. Your eyes keep on looking around during our conversation. You are looking for something. You are overthinking," Linda said. At the same time, she received a message from Spring Crown, who stood by her side. "No need to search, I've looked around. 3 are here, but the Themisphere King is not with this crowd. Maybe he is late?" Linda replied to Spring Crown, also using a message. Spring Crown just shrugged for a response. Where is your king? Linda asked John. Are you kidding me? You didn't answer my question. Now you expect me to answer yours. I am here. A thundering voice boomed from above. Everyone looked up and saw an ethereal in regal clothes floating down from the sky. It was Master. He floated down and landed in front of the empty chair before sitting on it. Damn, dude, do you have to make such an entrance? Peidoin called out. He has always been that kind of a swagger. A female voice was heard from the side. She came with another group. Her group consisted of players from all 7 races, but a majority were of the ethereal race. Wilted Euro, I expected you to come as well, Master uttered. Wilted. Grace came to her. Grace had met Wilted before when she came to the Village of Peace to take the pipe of monster control and the Grace of Tranquility potions. The two quickly became friends. Grace! Wilted greeted Grace back with a smile. Where is Jack? I don't know a euro, he promised he would be here. He is probably just late, Grace replied. You can't contact him? Wilted asked. Grace shook her head. I can't. I've tried. Hey sis! Handsome Joe, who came with Wilted, called to the stage. Beside him were Another Day, Black Hole and Dark Radiant. The one whom Joe called was Mistress. Mistress displayed an expression of disgust. She said, You still like to hang around in the dirt pile, I see. I sometimes wonder if we truly came from the same mother. I don't think our blood is the problem, sis. You are simply too spoiled, Joe returned. While the others were talking, Master was conversing with Spring Crown via messages. What about the scouts outside? Do they catch any sign of the Themisphere King? He might probably be hiding somewhere, Master said. Nope. No one saw him. Why does he bother to hide? It's not his style. If he is here, he will be up here having a bicker with you. Master didn't deny that. The memory of him longing to shut Jack up when they were in Euphesine's dimension came back to him. The guy would be very loud if he was here, but he didn't understand what reason Jack had to skip this event. Out of all the others, Jack would be the last one he expected to not see here. But instead, the 3 others were here and Jack was not. Did Jack somehow know what he was up to? No. No one outside of his closest people knew about the true purpose of this convention. There was no way Jack knew about it. He looked around. Perhaps Jack was simply late. The convention will start in 3 hours. Master's voice boomed. His voice carried over even until the hills where the furthest players were. Everyone heard his voice. A euro, he has a powerful mana manipulation, Doman remarked after hearing the voice. Jack said he doesn't study martial arts and he has no one teaching him. Hard to imagine he reaches this stage all by himself, Jet said. Such a pity a genius like him turns to the evil path, Doman sighed. There are 2 evil geniuses up there, Jet said, indicating Long who stood beside Master. All the 4 heavenly enforcers were also up there on the stage. Murmur ensued after Master made the announcement. 3 hours? We have to wait some more? I thought this convention was supposed to start at sunrise. One person complained. The others echoed his sentiment. Some had been here since yesterday. They were tired of waiting. The murmurs turned into a chorus, but Master ignored them all. Some tried to get close to the stage to protest, but they were stopped by the World Maker and World Rulers members. These members were all high-level players. Although the complaining people had more numbers, they didn't dare to force their way. Everlasting Heavenly Legends and its allies didn't protest. They waited quietly by the side. In John and Jeannie's opinion, they were happy the convention was delayed. Maybe Jack could still catch up because of this. Little did the 2 sides know that they were waiting for the same person but for different reasons. Everyone started mingling around while waiting for the 3 hours to pass. Wilted, is it? It's good to finally meet you. Jeannie came to Wilted. Thank you for your schematics on the time chamber and ice cannon tanks. Those were a big help to us. I am the one who must thank you for giving Master such a headache. I thought I would be his biggest thorn, but turns out your guild does a much better job than me. We are already preparing our final push to invade Liguridium, Jeannie said. There is no need for you to play guerrilla anymore. Your group can come and join us to fight together. I'm confident we will defeat the World Maker. €1 if we can sway the public here from joining Master. John joined in the conversation. St. John, pleased to finally make your acquaintance, Miss Wilted. Your reputation precedes you. You can call me Mr. Saint. Miss €1, Mr. Saint €1? Wilted was lost for words. Don't take him seriously. Just call him John, Jeannie said. Jonah €1, you are Jack's brilliant strategist. Wilted exclaimed. I would prefer you leave the word Jack's out. Just brilliant strategist is enough. 3 hours passed quickly, but no sign of Jack. Master clenched the armrests of his chair. Damn it. He always is the one who spoils my plan. Master muttered unhappily. What should we do? Mistress asked. That item you have can only be used once. If they are not all here €1, Master gave the matter a brief thought. He then said, change of plan then. He sent the others messages containing his instructions. He then got up from his chair and announced, we will now begin this Outworlder convention €1. Everyone, Master's voice thundered. In my world announcement, I've told everyone that I created this world. I didn't elaborate because I couldn't speak for long in that announcement. I will now explain in full. My real name is Apollyon. Some of you might have heard my name. I am a scientist. It is my creation that turned this world into a reality based on the work of the Trigitech Core. Those of you from the gaming community surely are not unaware of this corporation. It is the one developing the second world game which this world is based on. Next to me here is Miss Mia. Beside her are Mr. Larry and Mr. Blake. Again, those of you from the gaming community should be aware of their faces. Mistress stood up from her chair as her real name was called. Standing beside her chair was lead designer and another man with the alias, Serviceman. Larry was not the real lead designer in the corporation, but he was the one that normally sent to talk with the press. This was because the real lead designer, Wilted's partner, disliked meeting the press or coming out to the public. Serviceman, aka Blake, was the head of customer service in the corporation. He had even more exposure to the public than Larry. As for Mistress, she was the face of their corporation's every marketing campaign. So she was also used to being seen. Everyone in the gaming company knew that she was the daughter of the owner of the corporation and the main heir. Murmurs started to circulate among the crowd. Those who were not from the gaming community spoke to their friends who used to be gamers, trying to confirm the authenticity of Master's words. Every one of you from the gaming community should also find this world to be similar to the second world game which was publicized. You should get many of its pre-released features and learn that this world is the same as was promoted. You were also all pulled into this world right when the second world's beta test was about to take place. This should prove that I speak the truth. It doesn't prove shit. A voice boomed from the crowd. Everyone turned to the source and saw it was the man. The man also utilized mana manipulation in his speech, but his expertise was not as good as Master's. It only proves that this world is coincidentally similar to the second world game. The man continued. Hell, the Trigitech people could have something that peered into this world, and they made their game based on this world. You are just trying to twist the fact into elevating yourself, as if you are the one responsible when in fact you are just nobody like the rest of us. Clamors were heard, expressing approval. Those clamors were from Jeannie's camp. They did it because of John's instruction. The man also spoke based on a message sent by John. I appreciate your opinion, but please refrain from interrupting until I am finished, Master said. I disagree. This time, John spoke without an intermediary. The mana manipulation empowering his voice was almost as strong as Master's. If you have wanted people to just hear you speak, you should have called this a conference, not a convention. You are correct. I do allow everyone to speak, Master replied. But I am the one who initiated this gathering, so I need to put the topic in context first. Otherwise, people will not get the idea or the whole picture. This will end up as a talk where people argue without direction. I think everyone wants to understand what I am offering. That's why everyone comes here? Or do you wish to stop me from giving everyone the information they came here for? The crowd cheered, but mostly these cheers came from Master's camp. Linda also played the same tactic. Of course not, John said. All right, I will allow you to proceed. John's words displeased Master. He didn't need anyone's permission to proceed, but he didn't dwell on it. He had heard about this man being more aggravating than the Themisphere King. He doubted that was possible, but he was starting to believe it. He returned his attention to the crowd and addressed them. Perhaps you don't believe it is I who created this world. That's fine. I do expect skeptics, but know that I am responsible for everyone coming to this world. You were pulled into this world because I activated my machine. This machine can bring you here. This machine can bring you back. That's a lie. Another voice interrupted. Master's first reaction was to look at John, who responded with a hurt expression and said, "What are you looking at me for? Can't you hear it was a woman's voice?" The one who had interrupted was Wilted Tree. She was shouting, "Your machine didn't pull everyone into this world. Your machine transforms our world into this world." Hearing that, Master said, "So, you are agreeing that I am the reason this world came to be? Thesauro, you can't return the world to how it used to be." Wilted shouted. "How do you know that? And who the hell are you?" Master asked. The others looked at Wilted. Nobody knew her. Unlike Mistress and Lead Designer, she was the same as her partner. She disliked exposure to the public. She simply enjoyed her work. This had now backfired on her. She had no credibility. The ones who were with her knew she was telling the truth, but they were small voices. "All right, everyone keeps on questioning my claims. Fine. I'm going to do something that only a creator of this world can do." Master pointed his left hand into the sky. "Behold, on my command, this daylight will turn into night." Now a euro. Once he finished speaking, it was as if someone had sped up the time. The sun, which was just rising in the east, swiveled with incredible speed towards the west. Before anyone knew what was going on, the sky had turned into night. After the unnatural phenomenon, no one made a sound. The whole basin was silent. Then, without warning, the sky turned again, this time backward. The sun rose from the west and went back to the spot before Master's declaration. "This is my proof," Master's voice roared. "And this is what I can offer you. A way back. Who wants it?" Another silence ensued, but it was soon broken by another voice. "I do," that voice exclaimed. "Me too," another chimed in. Soon, the basin was filled with voices expressing their desire to return to the old world. Master lifted his hand, signaling for everyone to be quiet. Once everyone did, he said, "I can take you back to our old world, but my machine needs an awful lot of energy. An energy that I can't get in my current situation. That's why I became a ruler and tried to unify the land. All that is so I can secure enough energy to operate my machine. A machine that will give you the chance to return home. But my enemies are hindering me, preventing me from giving you this chance. Stand with me. Together we will unite this land. Once it is done, I promise you, you will be able to return to our previous world." Cheers were heard again, but this time it was louder. It was clear that it was not the world maker making a FAA section audit this time. There seemed to be plenty of those who were eager to return to the old world. Now that a chance was presented to them, how could they resist? "No, he is lying. He won't do that. He won't return the world to its previous state. He is just using you all. You can't trust him," Wilted shouted. But since she couldn't do mana manipulation, her voice was drowned by the cheering. "Listen to me. How can you people trust him just like that? He caused you all to be here. Why would he send you back?" "Save your breath," John said to her. "You won't persuade them. You can't prove he is lying." "But he is lying," Wilted exclaimed. "I know, but you can't prove it. Or, do you have some irrefutable proof you can show here? Or can you do what he did, turn the day into night? If you can, don't hold out." I can't," Wilted answered with a defeated tone. "How the heck did he do that anyway? I thought the world system should prevent him to pull shit like that," John asked. "He must have hidden a code to do that inside the program." The turning of the day didn't affect gameplay. It didn't harm players or NPC nor alter the landscape. That must be why the world system missed this hidden code. I beg to differ, Bowler said. If we are in the middle of a fight with vampires and the day turns into the night, we will be in a shitshow. Wilted gave Bowler an annoyed glance. She continued, anyway, he won't be able to do it again. The second turning where the night turned back into the day. It was not his doing. It was the world system quickly correcting the error. Whatever code he had hidden would have been deleted by now. It had served its purpose, John said. He must have planted that hidden code for this very purpose, in case he needs to convince the public. Yehayuro, everybody believes him now, Bowler added. It is just a simple magic show. It doesn't prove his claim as a creator. I can't believe everyone bought into his lies just like that, Wilted complained. That's true, but what he offers is something that people want. Sometimes the masses choose to believe what they want, even if deep down they know they are being lied to. The masses are stupid, John said. We have too many examples of it happening in our old world's political campaign. Candidates spouting lies and giving empty promises, but people still buy into it. Why? Because what if this time it is real? The people don't want to risk missing the opportunity. They hope that it is real. They want it to be real. Hence, they fight to support those who give them the promises. Right now, his lies bring people more comfort than your truth. Euro, are we going to let him recruit the masses just like that? Wilted asked. Of course not, John grinned. If he uses lies to give people what they want, we use the truth to give people what they want. Ha! Wilted couldn't understand what John meant by that. John didn't bother explaining, he cast a spell instead. The World Maker's members who were guarding the stage were immediately alarmed. Was John starting a fight? John disappeared. He reappeared on the stage. He had cast teleportation. Some of the World Maker members on the stage immediately ran to him. Hey, is this a convention or a conference? You said you would let others speak, didn't you? John called to Master. The World Maker members who had been approaching John stopped and turned to Master, waiting for his decision. Or are you not yet finished speaking? John asked. If so, then I apologize. I thought with all that stand with me. You are done speaking and others are allowed to speak. If you are not done yet, please continue. I will stay here waiting. The World Maker members who were ready to grab John gave him side eyes. Stay here waiting? Aren't you supposed to be down there waiting? Master just stood there looking at John in silence. Take your time. I will wait for you, John said. He then started whistling. The World Maker members who stood around him looked at Master with eyes that said, Please, give us the order to whack him. Let him speak. Master finally spoke. He went back to his chair and sat. You hear your master. Begone, please. Dogs aren't allowed on stage. John shooed the players around him away. Those World Maker members gritted their teeth, but didn't dare to attack without Master's approval. They walked away grumbling. People of the old world. John's voice echoed. The ability of his voice to travel to the furthest audience didn't lose to Master. In case you don't know me, let me introduce myself. I am St. John, the leader of the #1 guild in this world, everlasting heavenly legend, the royal advisor to the best country in this world, Themisphere, and the smartest person in Thesiuro. Well, I'm not delusional enough to say in this world. Let's just say on this stage. The crowd laughed. It was mainly the members of Everlasting Heavenly Legends and its allies who laughed. But as people said, laughing was contagious. Some who didn't find John's words funny also ended up laughing. Humph! Mistress harumphed unhappily. Saying something like that was the same as insulting them. Don't need to heed the words of a fool. Master sent her a message. Let him say his piece. Our people still need time to get into position. Before I begin, I want to ask the great Liguridium ruler some questions first, John said. Master frowned. What was this clown playing at? You said you pulled everyone into this world using your machine? Is that correct? John asked. It took Master several seconds before he decided to play along. That's correct, Master answered. When you caused that phenomenon, it happened to everyone at the same time. So, I assume your machine can't select certain people to be sent back. Either everyone goes back or everyone stays. Is this also correct? That's correct. That's why I arranged for this convention. So everyone can decide. Master answered. Thank you for your answers, John said. He then addressed the audience. Everyone, you have all heard the offer from the Liguritum ruler. Now let me also give you an offer. My offer is €, are you ready for this? My offer is for you to stay in this world €. The entire crowd was silent. I know. Some of you might think, what the hell kind of offer was that? John said. Then let me ask you, what's so good of our old world? Don't misunderstand me, there is good in our old world, of course. But let's be real, there is also much good in this world. One example, Brian. Where the hell are you? Ah, there you are. Come up here, please. A man walked toward the stage but was stopped by the World Maker members. These members looked at Master, asking for his approval. John and the entire audience also turned to Master. Master waved his hand, indicating his people to let this Brian pass. After Brian walked up the stage, John said to him, Brian, tell everyone here who you are and what is your job in the old world. Uhayuro, my name is Brian. As to what my job was Euro, I didn't have any. I'm unemployed because I'm a cripple, Brian answered. Cripple as eine Euro? I have no hands. No hands, John exclaimed. Now don't get me wrong. Cripple doesn't mean you can't get a job. There are plenty of motivational stories of cripples being successful in our old world. But hey, let's face it, how many cripples actually succeed? Even if they do, they have to fight twice or thrice as hard. They are already handicapped and they still have to put in more effort than everyone else, not to mention the prejudices from everyone around them. Where is the fairness in that? John paused for a bit before he threw Brian another question. Brian, when you are pulled into this world and found that you have hands again, what was your thought? I thought it must be a miracle, Brian answered. Well, you have that guy to thank for your miracle, John said to Brian while pointing at Master. At least that's what he claimed. How about you give him a proper thanks? Brian turned to Master and said, The thank you, Mr. Euro. Master simply grunted for a reply. Brian is not the only example. John bellowed, startling Brian, who was right next to him. There are more. City Euro, he pointed at a woman below the stage. She was blind in the old world. Now she can see. Cole over there. He couldn't walk. Now he can. And it's not just about disability. How many of you experienced sickness ever since you came into this world? Huh? None. Because there is no such thing here. No disease. No virus. Back in the old world, you had to pay attention that the person you were talking to didn't have a cold. Otherwise, you would catch one too. You have no such worry here. Alice over there. She told me she lost a son due to a car accident. If it happens in this world, her son will still be alive. Back to level 1 perhaps, but alive. And you want to throw all these away? You are going to let this person take it all away. John was pointing at Master again as he said that. He said that he is the creator. I, for one, don't buy into that crap one bit. Okay, he can turn day into night. So what? I can summon a freaking tiger. You can conjure fireballs. For goodness sake. This world is full of miracles. I'm not going to let him take all these miracles away, and you shouldn't to Euro. Murmurs spread around the crowd. Among the crowd, one spoke up. To Euro, I still can't find my brother. I need to go back to the real world and make sure that he is all right. Some others expressed the same sentiment to the one who just spoke. If your brother was still alive when the world turned, then he should still be alive right now. Well, Euro, unless his age is too old that he is close to deathbed, John said. If he is not, you can go to the Missing Outworlders Coordination Center. They have branches in every capital. Or you can just come straight to Therath, where their headquarters is located. They have the most comprehensive record of players. If they don't have the info on your brother, they can help you look for him. What about our possessions in the old world? Another yelled. If you are those who rely on your assets to succeed rather than your hands and feet, then I can't help you there, mate, John said. We are all given a new start here. Isn't that a good thing? A new start. A second chance at everything. This is the place where everyone has an equal chance of making it big. Murmurs were heard again. John looked to the side. Aren't you going to say something? John asked Master. I've said what I want to say, Master responded. HMEuro John was expecting more resistance. Are you done? Master asked in return. I will be soon, John said. He turned back to the crowd. People of the old world. You have experienced the old world for the majority of your lives. You have experienced this new world for 1.5 years. Even though you only experience a fraction of what this world can offer, I believe you get the idea. You can make the comparison yourself. Don't listen to the people next to you. They are fools. The crowd started looking at one another, more precisely, the people next to them with a weird look. Make your own judgment. What the old world has to offer you. What this new world has for you. Decide on your own. Don't just go and follow blindly. If you choose to stay in this world, then you are among me and my friends. You heard this maniac before. He can't select people to leave this world. Everyone has to either go or everyone has to stay. So, are we going to let him just take away this wonderful new world from us? I say no a euro. All of you who agree with me, stand with me. Together, we will drive away this tyrant who tries to conquer this land. Like many psychotic oppressors from our old world's history. Different from our old world. Here, we are more equipped to fight back. We will not let these bullies rule our lives anymore. Stand with me. Once we dethrone this despot, you will be able to fully enjoy what this new world has to offer. This world has a whole lot more to offer. This, I promise you. The crowd cheered. It started on the side where the everlasting heavenly legends and their allies were, but the cheering soon spread. I feel like I am watching one of those political campaigns, Jet remarked. Yeah, both of them are spouting bullshits, Patoan said. Master stood from his seat. Finally going to say something? John asked. Are you done? Master asked in return. Depend on what you are going to say, John returned. Master cast his fly spell and floated up. Those who wish to stand with me, come to Ligurididum. We will march together. John didn't want to lose. He had also learned the fly spell. He cast the spell and floated to an elevation that was slightly higher than Master. He shouted, Those of you who wish to stand with us, come to Themisphere. We will march together. No need, Master announced. Those of you who oppose me, you will perish here. The crowd was startled by the announcement. Now, this is surprising. I thought you gave us your word you won't harm your enemy during this convention, John uttered. During the convention, Master returned. It has now ended. The crowd started to part. Some went to the side where the World Maker and its allies were. Some went to the side where the everlasting heavenly legends and its allies were. Many stayed at their places, unsure of what they were going to do. Have you people made up your choices? Master asked. Heh, more people come to our side, moron. You failed, John said after seeing the crowd's movement from up in the air. There are more undecided people down there than the ones who have made their choices, Master returned. Once you start attacking, they will see that you are not a man of your word. They will be fools for following you. Master grinned. You still think this convention is meant for me to rally manpower? John frowned after hearing that. What do you mean? Master didn't answer. He just continued grinning. Are you telling me that you have a secondary objective for this convention? John continued to pry. Master chuckled. Rallying the players is the secondary objective. What are you saying, Euro? Master took a look at the surroundings. The players that gathered here had reshuffled into 3 clear camps. The World Maker side, the everlasting heavenly legend side, and those who were still confused. Dead man needs no explanation, Master said as he pointed his magic staff at John. John was surprised but prepared. He erected a magic shield just as Master's force impact slammed into him. He was sent to the ground with a bang. With that first strike, the crowd erupted. Both sides went for each other. Those who were still undecided quickly moved away to not get caught in the brawl. Master floated higher into the air. His magic staff was lifted high. Runes started forming one by one. Those who could identify the spell formation knew that the spell was the Meteor Fall spell. When the spell formation almost completed its 8th rune, it suddenly fizzled. Not only that, Master lost his ability to fly. His body fell from a great height. He didn't panic, though. He landed hard on his 2 legs, losing a tiny bit of health point that was meaningless for his unnaturally high health point pool. Hee. Do you think I come without preparation? John said. He didn't lose much health point from Master's force impact. Despite Master's abnormal intelligence stat, John's magic shield was empowered by mana manipulation. What did you do? Master asked. You didn't answer my question. Why should I answer yours? John said. But to be honest, even if I have made preparations, I admit I'm still surprised that you started a fight here. This will just cause you to lose additional support. I don't need those who are half-hearted, Master returned. He was looking around the place. Everyone was unable to use their skills. He tried sending a message. He could not. Hex of Power Restraint. Master came to a realization. Master was not wrong. The Hex of Power Restraint was a unique grade artifact that was originally owned by Death Associates. Everlasting Heavenly Legends gained this artifact after they raided Death Associates' headquarters. The artifact could strip everyone or every monster within its very large AoE of their abilities to use skills, spells, and tools. The Hex needs 1 hour to start Euro, Master said. Yeah, I've already asked people to start it up before you start speaking, John said. Lucky for us, it came into activation on time. John had instructed one of his guild members to look for a secluded place within this basin and hide the artifact there. The enemies wouldn't be able to find it easily. He also had a garrison to secure that place. His original plan was to start the artifact up halfway into the convention. But his initial talk with his mother gave him a bad feeling. Hence, he had his members start the artifact early. A little bit before the 3-hour mark Master gave prior to starting the convention. This turned out to be a correct decision. Without your spells, you are nobody but a thug with high attributes, John said with a grin. You should have taken up martial arts lessons from Wong. The Everlasting Heavenly Legends members charged up the stage while the World Maker members came forward to protect Master. The 2 sides went into a full brawl without any skills and spells. Everlasting Heavenly Legends sides had slightly more numbers. Additionally, Everlasting Heavenly Legends members were all martial artists. Even if the regular members had slightly inferior equipment than World Makers members, their martial arts bridged the gap. As for Everlasting Heavenly Legends core members, they completely trumped the enemy. Their equipment didn't lose to the enemy and their martial arts were top-notch. Without the ability to use skills, the Everlasting Heavenly Legends side held the advantage. This is our chance to take Master down. Don't let him flee, John shouted. He was unable to send messages due to the Hex, so he had to shout the order. He had previously positioned members to slip into the enemy's back during the convention. These members were now fighting behind the enemy's line while paying attention to not letting Master escape. The fight went on for some time. As expected, Master had many followers protecting him. It was expected. John focused most of his members to target Master. The side where Master was located had most players crowding. Without the ability to use skills, it was only a matter of time until they peeled the defensive force and got to Master. As the fight continued, John started to find the situation to be strange. He didn't spot any of Master's heavenly enforcers except for Linda. Master also didn't seem to be in a hurry to retreat even when his force seemed to be failing. John took a look around. Normally, it would be difficult to see the battlefield situation from ground level with all the chaotic fights, but John was not normal. It took some time, but he could make a rough estimation after several glimpses. There were fights all over the place, but he noticed a peculiar arrangement in World Maker's forces. Aside from where Master was located, the enemies were heavily concentrated in 3 other areas. When the battle started, Everyone tried to penetrate through the enemy's force to get to Master. Everyone knew this was the perfect chance to kill Master. Jeannie led the charge at the front line. Her spears stabbed non-stop. Behind her were Jet, Peidoin, Grace, and their other guild members. Although it was the best chance to kill Master, it was a pity the Hex didn't stop passive skills. Master's immortal soul would still come into play if he was killed. Even so, killing him would be a great morale boost to their side and a great demoralizing boost to their enemies. Wilted was there with Jeannie. She was eager to get to Master as well. The group she brought fought with her. Too bad she couldn't use her tool, which forced Master to rebirth at the same place he died. As they tried pushing forward, they found that they were unable to. There were too many enemies. Jeannie found the situation weird. They should have more numbers than the enemies, but she didn't think too much about it. Her spear stabbed with lightning speed. Without having to worry about the enemy's skills or spells, she could focus fully on her spear art. Many barred her way, but none was able to stop her spear until another spear came in her way. "Hello, beauty!" Spring Crown greeted. Scram! Jeannie's 7 spears assaulting heaven stabbed at Spring Crown. Whoa! So Fiercia Euro. Spring Crown moved away before the first stab hit. His fast reaction and inhuman reading speed informed him of the danger of that first stab. Without the initial stab, Jeannie's spear art was unable to exhibit its true power. At the same time, Jeannie found herself surrounded by several World Maker members. These members all had special classes and wore the best equipment. Jeannie looked back and saw her friends had somehow been pushed away by the enemy's sheer number. She had been isolated. On another side, the true Death Associates were fighting against their adversaries, which were none other than Death Associates. Both sides fought with high zeal. Both sides thought of the other side as traitors. "Scumbags! You people have no right to our guild name," Blue Death exclaimed. "Ha! You are one to talk. We are the true Death Associates, not you. You people are just imposters," Earmouth shouted back. "Fuck off, you asshole." Blue Death made a heavy swing using his cleaver. Earmouth was smashed to the side. Earmouth was a summoner. He wasn't able to compete with Blue Death without his summons. "Sore loser. How can you not see that you are riding a sinking ship?" Yellow Death scolded as he fired his rifle from a safe distance. "Right back at you, punk," Blue Death yelled. If Blue Death could use spectral projection, he would have sent his projection to Yellow Death. He didn't dare to be reckless. He stayed with his guild members as they slowly pushed forward. However, after fighting for a while, they found it was them who were getting pushed instead. "Why a euro? Why are the enemies so many?" he uttered. "A euro, they are focusing on us," Scarface exclaimed after looking at the situation. "Retreat. We will withdraw to where our allies can support us." Black Death was a decisive leader. She wasn't going to let her members in such a disadvantageous situation for long. However, one member had been pushing too far ahead all by herself. "Rita Euro, come back," Blue Death shouted. The girl was always a hot-blooded one despite her cool demeanor. She had charged ahead of everyone else. Blue Death tried to get to her to give her support. Bang! Bang! 2 successive gunshots accurately struck Blue Death's head. He looked at Yellow Death. He had been holding a shield in Yellow Death's direction to defend against his bullet. This shot had come from a different direction. Did Yellow Death move without him being aware of it? He saw the gunner then. It wasn't Yellow Death. It was Ronald. He had seen this gunslinger in action when White Death led them to secure Death Associates' new headquarters in Orbor. This wasn't someone to be messed with. "Cover me." He put himself behind a guildmate who was a sentinel. The 2 headshots just now had resulted in critical hits. The damage took out more than half of his life. He couldn't afford to get hit by that gunslinger again. A couple of gunshots were heard. He felt a hard impact on the side of his head. What? The direction where the bullet came from was covered by his other guildmates. From where died Euro, another impact on his head. That last hit took out the little health point he still had left. Luckily for him, he was still responsive enough to exchange his pendant with the Amulet of Rebirth while in cover. The Hex didn't block passive ability, so the amulet's ability was still in effect. He just couldn't participate in this battle anymore. Ronald used his ricochet shots to hit Blue Death behind his cover. He had been sniping everyone who was trying to get to Red Death, alienating the girl. Other capable melee members from World Maker, World Ruler, and Death Associates surrounded Red Death. Red Death was a capable combatant. Without being able to use her skills, she could still rely on her martial arts to repel the enemies, but there were too many enemies. She was puzzled. Why were the enemies targeting her? This meant the enemies would be lacking manpower in other places. Black Death saw the situation and immediately retracted her order for a retreat and called everyone to push forward to save Red Death. But the enemies had formed a barricade. Those who were able to break through the barricade were met with Ronald's bullets. Red Death gritted his teeth. She had slain more than 5 enemies who surrounded her, but there was no end to her opponents. Among the ones who surrounded her were Violet Death and Grimclaw. These two weren't greenhorns in terms of martial arts. The pressure on her was mounting. Her unique grade set equipment gave her very high defenses, but her base class was in essence a vulnerable one. She couldn't take too much punishment. She quickly replaced her pendant with the Amulet of Rebirth when her health point went below half. However, instead of landing the killing blows, the enemies threw themselves at her. These enemies had stored their weapons. They used brute force and grabbed Red Death's limbs, hindering her movements. "Get off Maya Euro!" Red Death screamed. Her special class and equipment gave her great strength, but it was still not enough to repel all these players pressing at her. While she was still puzzled as to why the enemies had not yet landed the killing blow, a runic rope coiled around her body. What a euro! Red Death was startled by this development. After getting bound, 2 berserkers lifted her and brought her away. Their guild mates prepared a retreat path for them. The 2 berserkers ran at high speed while their guild mates prevented others from interfering. True Death Associates members could only stare as they saw the enemies kidnap Red Death. On another side, Leave Me Alone fought with Doman and Freddy nearby. "Hey on! Stay with the others," Doman called. Leave Me Alone was similar to Red Death. He was a quiet but hot-headed person. In this situation where game skills were not available, martial arts shone. Compared to all the prior battles, he found this one to be the most satisfying. His fists took down many opponents. He didn't need to worry about the unpredictability of skills and spells. All he had to pay attention to was the enemy movements. It had been a long time since he fought like this. He reveled in the feeling. That's how he had ended up ahead of the others while his comrades were still lagging behind. Doman and Freddy were the only ones who could keep up. Leave Me Alone heard Doman's call. He might be a hothead, but he was obedient to his master. He stepped back to where Doman was, but he suddenly sensed something approaching fast. He jumped away just in time as a shadow came kicking in between him and Doman. This shadow then spun at an unbelievable speed and almost struck Doman with a kick. Doman managed to parry the kick with his glaive at the last moment, but the force from the impact threw him back. The shadow landed. Long was standing in between Leave Me Alone and his guildmates. "Long," Doman called after seeing his attacker. "Please stay back, Master Doman. I don't want to hurt your old bones," Long said. His words were polite, but his tone was very condescending. "You insolent punk. I'm going to teach you some manners," Freddy yelled as he lunged. His fingers whipped forward using praying mantis style. "Wait. Don't underestimate him," Doman called. Freddy had heard about Long, but he had never fought him before. He didn't believe this youngster was as troublesome as everyone said. Without access to skills, veteran martial artists like them should be able to teach these Game Freak youngsters a thing or two. Long also came forward. He moved his arms in a circular motion. A long Eastern dragon materialized following his arm movement. The dragon swept forward with a force that shoved Freddy's 2 arms aside. Long's palm then pushed forward, landing squarely on Freddy's chest. Pang! Freddy was sent flying back as if cannonball. He crashed into his guildmates and toppled over. "You have improved again," Doman praised. At the same time, his glaive's blade was as if multiplying into several blades that came slashing from various confusing angles. It was his sole pursuit hurricane which had been modified to increase its lethality. Despite Long's patronizing attitude, he didn't look down on Doman's attack. He moved back as his two arms, strengthened by the iron hand technique, blocked Doman's glaives. Not all the blades from Doman's sole pursuit hurricane were real. Some were mere illusions. This in turn increased the difficulty for Long to block. He couldn't differentiate between the real and fake. All the blades had Doman's mana signature. When he blocked the fake one, he lost momentum because he expected a resistant force, but there was none. This opened him up, and Doman's real blade managed to stab into his side. However, the blade was stopped by an invisible wall 1 inch before Long's body. "Iron shirt," Doman muttered. He released one hand from his glaive. That free hand formed into a palm and struck the bladeless end of the glaive. The drive provided additional energy for the glaive to thrust forward, piercing Long's defensive mana. But the brief pause provided by the iron shirt gave Long enough time to respond. His body swiveled and dodged the glaive's thrust. Following that swivel, Long's leg whipped toward Doman's head. Doman put one arm beside his head just as Long's feet arrived. Doman managed to block the lightning-fast kick, but Long had the strength of 2 classes. The impact sent Doman reeling back. In a fraction of a second after Long's kick hit Doman's arm, his other leg whipped in the opposite direction. This second kick collided with Leave-Me-Alone's fist. The impact sent the two tumbling back. After Long separated Leave-Me-Alone from the others, Leave-Me-Alone was beset by many opponents. Even though he underwent a similar situation as Red Death, he fared better. This was because of several factors. Leave-Me-Alone's equipment was slightly better. He wore 2 legendary armor. His unique grade weapon was also better than a normal unique weapon because his was a growth weapon like Jack's. Moreover, the Battle Monk class was more equipped to fight multiple opponents compared to Assassin, which was mostly a hit-and-run class. Last but not least, his martial arts expertise was better. The multiple opponents who ganged up on him were now down on the floor. More were advancing, but the break allowed him to come to Doman's aid. Long wasn't an opponent who left his back vulnerable, though. He sensed Leave-Me-Alone's attack and responded appropriately. "You modified Twin Dragon strikes into kicks. Impressive." Doman commented on Long's kicks just now. He positioned himself opposite Leave-Me-Alone so the two of them could pin Long in the middle. "I would love to play with you too, but I have a task to complete," Long uttered. The muscles on his body bulged unnaturally. It was his muscle tendon transformation. He then punched in Leave-Me-Alone's direction. 9 miniature suns appeared and revolved around his arm as he punched forward. Despite the fierceness of Long's 9 yang scorching fist, Leave-Me-Alone didn't back away. His 2 fingers stabbed forward as cold energy gathered at the tip of those fingers. This cold energy then expanded and rotated rapidly. Long's back was exposed to Doman as he punched toward Leave-Me-Alone. Doman wasn't someone who enjoyed hitting his opponent's back, but this was a battle. He couldn't let his principal risk his disciple's safety. He stabbed using one-word thrust. His thrust was again stopped by Long's iron shirt. The iron shirt this time was even more solid because of the enhanced power from the muscle tendon transformation, but Doman was prepared. He again used one palm and smashed the bladeless end of his glaive. This time, his palm smashed using the martial art penetrating wave palm, his martial art that could bypass defense. The penetrative energy from his palm was transferred to the other end of the glaive. The glaive's blade vibrated as the penetrative energy passed through it. The energy made contact with Long's iron shirt. Like a piece of hot iron, the glaive pierced through, stabbing Long on his back. The stab hit Long's vital part, but Long didn't seem to care. His fist that carried the 9 suns continued onward. These 9 suns collided with the giant black drill from 9 in abyssal finger. The hot and cold energies were pressed against one another. The pressure was too high. The 2 energies reached a critical mass and exploded. The other players who saw the explosion were startled. Nobody had been able to use any game skill or tool. What could have caused that massive explosion? Leave-Me-Alone and Long were thrown away by the explosion. Due to the force, Long was thrown back into Doman's glaive. The stab went in deeper and he suffered additional damage. As for Leave Me Alone, he was thrown into the enemy's midst. In the exchange just now, even though the 9 Yang Exploding Fist and 9 In Abyssal Finger were considered the same level of martial arts, the power of their wielders was not. Long's 2 classes stats were higher than Leave Me Alone's even with the boost from the Runestone of Combat. Therefore, Leave Me Alone was thrown further. Leave Me Alone also felt his head spinning from the impact. When he landed, he couldn't immediately react. Being in the enemy's midst with that condition was fatal. The enemies didn't waste any time. They used their number and pressed against Leave Me Alone's body, while one of them used a runic rope to bind him. Heona Euro! Doman couldn't stay calm when he saw Leave Me Alone get bound. Long still had his back on Doman. Doman gave Long an elbow slam at the back of Long's head. Such a hard hit would have caused a normal person to faint. Long fell on the ground. His health point was critical. The 2 stabs from Doman just now had taken out a large chunk of his life. The last elbow was also done with mana manipulation and caused damage. If it was not for his 2 classes health point, he would have died. Doman didn't have the time to think about killing Long. He was worried about Leave Me Alone. He rushed forward before Leave Me Alone was taken away. But he was stopped when a strong hand grabbed his leg. Our fight has not ended, Master Doman. The hand belonged to Long. His body appeared burning. At the same time, Doman sensed a great mana burst from Long. What a euro! Long made a sudden jump followed by a swift spin kick. Doman parried the kick but was forced a few steps back. Euro Long's body was still burning. The most surprising was, his health point recovered at a rapid rate. His health point bar was almost back to half full by now. You've learned Eat a Euro, Doman muttered. Yes. The 9 Yang Restoration. Long grinned. A Euro, you must be the first person to have learned the complete 9 Yang scripture since ancient age. And also the youngest to achieve that, Doman said. Doman glanced at Leave Me Alone. The boy had been brought away. With Long standing in his way, he couldn't go for the rescue. The other members tried to charge forward, but the enemies were many. They couldn't break through. Freddy, who only had half a life left after receiving Long's palm strike, came to Doman's side. Go and save Heian, Doman said to him. I will deal with him. Butayuro. Freddy had experienced Long's palm strike. He knew they couldn't treat Long as a normal martial artist. Go, Doman insisted. Be careful, Freddy said and rushed with the others. Long's body stopped burning. His health point was almost back to full. I see you have not truly mastered it yet, Doman said. It is enough for now, Long said. The 9 Yang Restoration was considered by many the most powerful among the martial arts contained in the 9 Yang scripture. It was also the hardest to learn. Even though it had no destructive power, it was able to create a miracle that was not achievable by other martial arts. Kept the wielder alive. In the ancient past, those who had managed to learn the 9 Yang Restoration were considered immortals. No matter how wounded they were able to heal themselves and return to the fight in a short time. Those who had mastered this art could even use it constantly during battle, making them undying. The only way to defeat these martial artists was by landing a fatal hit that killed them with one strike. This was already challenging to achieve in the old world. In this new game world, it was even more difficult to accomplish due to the health point system. This meant the 9 Yang Restoration was even more formidable in this world. Doman took a deep breath. His mind was troubled with Leave Me Alone's abduction. He tried clearing his mind as much as possible. He knew going against someone like Long with a clouded mind was fatal. Long went into a horse stance. His 2 palms were retracted to his sides. With a series of movements, he pushed those palms out. Following the push, 18 Eastern dragons were unleashed. Doman looked at the coming dragons but didn't move away. The glaive on his hands was spun at high speed. A turbulent wave swept all around him. It was his martial art, reversing heaven and earth. All the dragons were swept to the side. They slammed into the ground nearby and created multiple craters. Neat trick. Try to redirect this. Then, Long jumped to a great height. His 2 palms were clasped together and it was burning fiercely. The image of a scorching blade was seen as Long swung his hands down. Doman didn't try receiving this attack. He stepped to the side. The flaming blade slammed into the ground, creating a long and deep gash that was burning. Doman used his one-word slash when Long landed, but Long's speed let him dodge the slash easily. Doman's glaive movement didn't stop. The straight slash fluidly transformed into a radial one. Doman linked his one-word slash with his Soul Pursuit Hurricane. Long had experienced this technique before. He was not flustered. Although the Soul Pursuit Hurricane contained many slashes that were both real and fake, he countered it by using brute force. He again used 18 subduing dragon palms. The violent force of his palms was able to sweep all the slashes away, whether they were real or fake. But as he did, something came to the side of his head. He sensed it, but it was too unexpected. This something crashed into his head and sent him reeling. Long recovered in no time and saw it was Doman's foot that had hit him. "I must admit, Master Doman, it is no wonder you are called the best martial artist among this generation," Long praised. "But you will still fall today." Genie was still fighting against multiple opponents. She had killed a good number of them. Her legendary grade spear had very high damage. Using a proper spear art and an accurate hit to the fatal spot allowed her to one-shot her enemies. Even so, the enemies were quickly replaced. The most troublesome was Spring Crown. Even without access to game skills, Spring Crown was able to perfectly coordinate with his guildmates and wear Genie down. During one opportunity, Spring Crown's spear suddenly came from an unexpected angle and struck Genie's arm. If Spring Crown could use his skill, this would have been a golden opportunity to disarm Genie. Since it was not, Genie bore the pain and continued holding her spear tight. When she was about to retaliate, Spring Crown's spear resumed stabbing with incredible speed. "I'm a Euro, impossibly a Euro," Genie cried when the multiple stabs came at her. She tried to parry those combo stabs, but they were simply too fast. She managed to parry 2 stabs, but one hit her shoulder. Although it was crudely done, Genie recognized the spear art Spring Crown had used was 7 spears assaulting heaven. Spring Crown had always self-taught all his martial arts. He had the exceptional perception to learn one just by watching someone performing it, and he had watched how Genie used this art during previous battles. The surprise and the pain from the stabs caused Genie to pause. This proved fatal as she was quickly swarmed by World Maker's members. Xianxia Euro. Jet had been using his super jumps as he fought through the barricades to get to Genie, but he was not fast enough. Genie had been bound by a runic rope upon his approach. Once Genie was incapacitated, Spring Crown turned his attention elsewhere. He saw Jet's approach. He changed his weapon into an axe and slashed at Jet, who was coming in with a high jump. The heavy axe collided with Jet's claw weapons. Jet was forced away from where Genie was at. Jet looked helplessly as Genie was carried away. "What are you people trying to do?" Jet yelled with anger. His claw weapons jabbed with ferocious stabs. Spring Crown simply smiled as he stepped back slowly to accommodate Jet's violent assault. His weapons had changed to twin swords. He was just keeping Jet at bay. He had no intention of clashing with this old martial artist directly. His objective had been achieved, after all. The whole of Cochra Basin was full of players trying to bash each other in. Those who were still undecided about who to support had moved further away out of the basin. They were now watching the battle from the hills. In terms of the general situation, the everlasting heavenly legends and its allies had the upper hand. They slew many of their opponents. Aside from their higher number, it was also because of the opponent's formation. The spectators who watched from afar thought that the World Maker and its allies had made a grave tactical error. Most of their forces were concentrated in a few spots, leaving the rest vulnerable. The World Maker and its allies suffered more casualties than their opponents. John had just realized these peculiarities. If he had the war table or the guild army platform, he would have noticed this arrangement immediately, but he didn't. He called for his allies to check on the places where the enemies were concentrated. While he was still giving orders, several allied players came to him bearing 3 news almost simultaneously. "Genie has been taken. Leave Me Alone is kidnapped. The enemy has taken Red Death." This news gave him a revelation. They had all been duped by this so-called convention. He turned to Master, who was protected by his followers. So, this is your intention all along? John gritted his teeth. How do you know Genie has one? I sensed the divine pulse when I killed her, Master answered. He had also received reports that his followers had bagged those three. Time to end this. Master came forward. Everlasting heavenly members who saw their target coming forward immediately redoubled their efforts. Each player tried to compete with the others to get to Master, but the opponent's barricade held. You people better run now. My reinforcement will arrive soon, Master declared. Tough talk, Giant Steve yelled. He pushed using his shield to get to Master. We have scouted the lands around here. No one but players and monsters for miles. Master smirked. You have scouted the lands. What about the skies? Master pointed up. Giant Steve didn't look up. He wasn't going to get tricked into looking elsewhere in the middle of a fight. John, however, looked up. What he saw were two specks in the clear sky. These specks were getting bigger. As they did, so did John's eyes. Motherfucker, retreat. Retreat, John called. The others who heard John's shout were confused. They were winning, weren't they? Why should they retreat? The enemy should be the one retreating. They then heard thundering roars. Everyone looked up. They too saw the specks then, which were now revealed to be two gargantuan dragons. One was covered in dark red scales. The other seemed to be made out of wood. Both had hollow eyes. Adro, Viking and the players from Palgrost recognized the red dragon. They had seen this dragon when they were preparing the defense in Balgador. Nova and Jennifer from Wicked Witches also recognized the other dragon. Theta, that's Yggdrasil, Jennifer stammered. She happened to see the wooden dragon once when they were doing the Kingdom faction quest for the previous Orbor's queen. The two eternal grey dragons were also affected by the Hex of Power restraint. They couldn't use their breath attacks or cast any spells. They didn't need to. Their huge bodies slammed into the ground where most of Worldmaker's opponents were concentrated. Their landing caused an earthquake. The shockwave made everyone fall to the ground. The ones who were unluckily squashed by the dragons upon landing died at once. The others nearby soon joined their fates as the two dragons started stomping and chomping. Crap! Pull back! Pull back! Everyone started to echo the retreat command. Those who were closest to the dragons fled haphazardly. The garrison that was guarding the Hex of Power restraint was confused about what to do after seeing the turn of events. Should they flee as well? But the Hex would stop working once they moved it. They couldn't send and receive messages due to the Hex's power. One of them then spotted a guildmate in the distance who was sending them a hand signal. The signal was to retreat at once. They quickly packed the artifact and fled from there. Once the artifact's power was gone, the dragons started unleashing their breath attacks, slaughtering even more players. To make matters worse, Master was able to use his spells again. He cast the spell that had been interrupted earlier. A huge meteorite fell on the fleeing players, killing many in the process. Master followed up with Wind God blades and donned his Earth Titan suit. Like a giant mech, he charged forward. Everyone ran away at their fastest speed. Under the protection of his Earth Titan suit, Master continued casting one AoE spell after another, blasting those who were slow in fleeing. He grinned savagely while doing it. He disliked letting emotion get the better of him, but he couldn't deny the satisfaction he felt at the moment when his enemies scattered like ants. Before the two dragons flew down from the sky, the man and bowler were fighting not far from where Doman and Long were fighting. The man was crossing axes with Goliath from the Warriors of Solidarity. Since Jack became Themisphere King, Warriors of Solidarity no longer dared to cause trouble to everlasting heavenly legends. Their members mostly skittered away when Jack's guild members were around. Considering their history, the man was over the moon of the situation. Several times, he had purposefully ridden in front of Warriors of Solidarity's headquarters, strutting around. He didn't cause trouble, though. Genie had warned everyone to not cause trouble even when their guild had become the country's national guild, especially against those guilds who used to be their enemies. Genie didn't want people to see them as tyrants. The man acted as if he accidentally took a wrong turn, but the Warriors of Solidarity's members knew he had purposefully crossed into their territory to gloat. After all, how could one person take the same wrong turn 8 freaking times? They didn't dare do anything, though. Offending the man would give his guild the excuse to attack. So, they just bottled up their resentment and acted docile. That was until they heard Master's offer at this convention. Returning to the old world. Of course, they wanted that. In the past, there were many games to choose from. If they failed to assert dominance in one game, they could just try another one. At this one, it was clear by now that their guild would just be a second-rated one. But there was no escape. There was no quitting and going offline. They were sick of this world where they had to act like kittens. Hence, they were the first to jump when Master gave the offer. They didn't care if this put them at odds with everlasting heavenly legends. When they were back in the old world, Jack's title of Themisphere King didn't mean squat. Once the battle erupted, they were the first to charge with the World Makers members, trying to prove their loyalty. After the clash, they found out how the gap had widened between them and the everlasting Heavenly Legends members. The real man was quickly put to the ground by the man. If Goliath hadn't stepped in, the real man would have died another time. Even Goliath was having trouble handling the man. Not only did he lose in terms of class and equipment quality, but he also lost in terms of martial arts. The man used an axe art taught by Doman, surging wave-cleaving lands. Each swing produced a violent wind that could sweep away everything. It was a martial art that relied on simple destructive brute force. This martial art suited the man very well. Goliath's large stature was forced back with every impact. He was unable to contest against the man's strength. He was forced until he dropped to his knee. "Do it," Goliath said. Defeated, he surrendered his fate. The man only needed another swing. "Bro, finish it quickly. Master Doman needs help," Bowler called. The man glanced over before returning his attention to Goliath. "You used to be someone I respect. Not because of your prowess, but because of your integrity. Look at you now. Gloat all you want," Goliath said. "A winner has all the right to speak. All right? Then I'm going to give you some advice. Look at your leader. Can you find him?" the man asked. Goliath took short glances at his surroundings. The real man was nowhere to be seen. He had run away after Goliath saved him. "In the past, we always stuck with our comrades. All through to the end, no matter the situation. There is no place for a coward like your leader. He bears the name of our guild, but he doesn't bear its spirit. You are a fool for following him. Pa! Killing you will be a disgrace." The man went away with Bowler, leaving Goliath kneeling on the ground. The two rushed to where Doman was. Doman had fought Long for some time. Doman had the expertise, but Long had better stats. Long could also heal his wound using the 9-yang restoration. In the long run, where healing spells couldn't be cast, the scale slowly tipped in Long's favor. Doman again landed a slash at Long, but in return, Long's palm struck his side. Doman's health point was down to below half by now, while Long's health point was still near full. The flames from the 9-yang restoration again covered his body. Doman sighed. "The world truly favors the young. Not the young. Just me," Long uttered as he conjured another 18 dragons. "Stay away from our master, you freak." A loud voice followed by images of axes and staffs came assailing. Long redirected his palms into these new assailants instead. Bowler and the man were smacked away. "Humph! Little flies. Why do you fly here? Are you so eager to get squashed?" Long ridiculed. At that time, Master's 2 eternal-grade dragons slammed into the ground some distance away. The situation became chaotic. The man and Bowler heard the shout for everyone to retreat. Many players started moving away. Looking at the situation, the call for a retreat was not a ruse. "Want to leave? Not so fast. Today, the number 1 martial artist will fall," Long declared. He swiped horizontally, conjuring a scorching blade. The man and Bowler were distracted by the call for retreat. They didn't have the time to dodge. They could only receive the attack using their weapons. Doman could dodge, but if he did, the man and Bowler would perish. He came forward and used his glaive to receive the attack. His glaive, the man's axe, and Bowler's staff clashed with Long's 9-yong scorching blade. The destructive flames radiated through the three's weapons and struck them. All three lost some health point. They also fell to the ground from the impact. Doman was not in the best condition. After that last hit, his health point was near critical. Long lunged forward when Doman fell. Long's palm was now hovering above Doman, ready to land the killing blow. Long's palm swung down, like a guillotine about to decapitate its victim, but he suddenly sensed a strong pressure from his side. His palm changed direction to where this pressure was coming from. A cloaked person was there. This person's hand was glowing with strange light. This glowing hand caught Long's palm, stopping its advance. The hand then formed into a claw and slammed into Long's chest. Long felt as if his chest had been crushed. He slapped the glowing hand and jumped away before that hand caused further damage. He lost almost 1/3 of his health point from that claw. "You old geezer. You finally show yourself," Long uttered. The newcomer took off his cloak, revealing an orc's face. He was Wong. "Thank you," Doman said to Wong. "We are now even," Wong replied. "Master, we have to leave," Bowler urged. Everyone else had been moving away. "Let's go," Doman said. They stepped away while keeping their eyes on Long, who also stared back at them. If Long wanted to chase them, they wouldn't be able to escape from his speed. If it was only the half-dead Doman and the two clowns, Long wouldn't hesitate. But with a full health Wong in the mix, he wasn't that confident. One more thing prevented him from chasing. Right now, his body was shivering. He had been using too many ancient arts, especially the 9-yong restoration which he hadn't fully mastered. The multiple usages had strained his body. He doubted if he could use that ancient art another time. Hence, he stayed his ground and watched the four retreat. He had fulfilled his objective. Killing Doman was just a bonus. Failing that wasn't truly a problem. He was happy enough that he got to test his competence against this so-called #1 martial artist. He had to admit, though, without his superiority in stats, he wouldn't have been able to win the fight, even with his 9-yong restoration. When the effect of the Hex of Power restraint was gone, Bowler quickly cast his healing spells on Doman. All around them, skills and spells started flying. The situation turned even more chaotic. They could receive messages again. John sent the order for everyone to disperse and used the guild return scroll after leaving combat status. They were to reconvene at headquarters. Wilted, who was among the fleeing players, took out a pipe once the hex's effect was gone. It was the pipe of monster control that was given by Goddess Serenity. She blew the pipe. The pipe had a restriction to only be able to be used against the force of Liguriddim's rebel prince. Worldmaker was considered a part of that force, so the pipe was viable to be used here. The monsters in the immediate surroundings had been cleared for the convention, but the pipe had an AoE with a radius of 5 kilometers. Soon, a horde of monsters with grades ranging from basic to special elites came charging. The fleeing players were at first terrified when the horde of monsters appeared in the direction they were running to. Some even started throwing range attacks at these monsters, but these monsters just ran past them. The monsters continued running until they encountered the pursuing players. They then pounded on these players. The fleeing players were confused, but they didn't stay around to find out which merciful god had sent this reinforcement. They fled while the monsters kept the pursuing players busy. Some continued running even after they were out of combat. Most used their town return scroll or guild return scroll to escape. Damn it all to hell! The man slammed the table in their guild hall. They gathered here after successfully escaping. "So, the convention is just a ruse to get to Genie, Leave Me Alone, and Red Death? We have been careless," John said. "Master has been focusing on the war effort all this time. We have neglected his main objective. That convention is a perfect place to get all the players who have the divine treasures in one place. I just didn't expect he already knew that Genie was also a bearer. I bet he expected Jack to come too," Padoan said. "If Boss came, things would have been different," the man uttered. "I doubt that," John said. "The convention is not country-related conflict. He can't summon Broidryrig. while Master has 2 eternal grade dragons. The result wouldn't be that far different. I agree, Wilted said. She had followed the others here to Heavenly Citadel to discuss their next course of action. If Jack also came, things could have been much worse. He could have been captured as well. Then Master would have everything he needs. Where is that bugger, anyway? Can anyone contact him? Peidoan asked. I can't. I have been trying since before the convention, Grace said. We can't keep on relying on him. We have to solve this ourselves, John said. What to solve? Master got 6 out of the 7 divine treasures now. We are fucked, Bowler exclaimed. Thanks for the motivation, mate, the man said sarcastically. We will still be okay for some time, Wilted said. What do you mean? John asked. Like the second soul remnant which gave additional class, the divine treasure was also considered an object of incredible power, Wilted said. He won't be able to fuse with all of them at the same time. The world system won't permit it. After he fuses with one, there will be a 1-month cooldown before he can fuse with another. That will give us 2 months before he has 6 divine treasures inside Himeyuro, John said. Dude, even with 3 he is already a monster. Can you imagine him with more? Peidoan said. Nevertheless, this is what we have to deal with, John said. One positive thing out of that mess we just went through is that we have gained more allies. Master had shown that he was not a trustworthy person. I bet a majority of those players who were standing on the fence will choose our side before long. I think some of the players who sided with him during the convention will also switch sides after seeing what he did, Bowler said. Except for the coward ones, Peidoan remarked. Or those desperate enough to return to the real world. The man added as he thought of the real man. Those who have sided with us during the convention mentioned they will come to their wrath to cooperate with us, Bowler said. Good. We will incorporate this additional force into our army, John declared. We will use overwhelming force to crush Ligurididum. Once we dethroned Master, we will hunt him down with the armies of this world before he fuses with more divine treasures. In a pocket world inside the dimension where the base of the Order of Magi was located, Jack was still inside the force field cage. He had both hands touching the force field wall. His eyes were closed. His face showed that he was hard in concentration. Janice simply looked at him in silence. Jack had continued doing this ever since he was locked inside that force field. He only stopped doing whatever he was doing when he needed to rest or when evil Janice came to visit. Janice had asked about what Jack was doing when he was resting. Jack answered that he was looking for a way out of this cage. Janice didn't understand how Jack planned to achieve that. All skills, spells, and tools were sealed when they were inside this force field cage. Jack didn't explain further. Janice stopped bothering Jack afterward. But at this moment, he sensed a strange sensation from the cage that Jack was in. His grade might have fallen to the rare elite grade, but he still retained his mana sensibility. He looked over due to this strange sensation. As he watched, he saw in between Jack's 2 hands. A small slit had appeared in the force field wall. His eyes turned wide. He was about to say something when Jack opened his eyes. The small slit on the force field wall slowly closed itself. It was as if there was never a change on that force field. He is coming again, Jack said. Janice had stopped wondering how Jack could detect someone coming earlier than him. He just trusted Jack now because Jack was always correct. Jack didn't tell Janice that it was because of his mana affinity talent that gave him a longer-range mana sense. Evil Janice came into the room not long after. He had been coming in like clockwork every 3 hours, probably to make sure there was nothing wrong with his captives. This time, however, he was slightly late. It had been 7 hours since he last visited. Euro, you have taken another victim, good Janice said. Jack could sense evil Janice mana was stronger than his last visit, but his inspect still had evil Janice at level 90 mythical plus grade. It won't be long now, evil Janice said. What will you do with us once you get what you want? Good Janice asked. Do you mean after I become an eternal being? I will kill you and take your essence. I don't want to risk it by doing it now because I'm afraid your essence will simply merge with mine. If that happens, we will just be back to our old self, an indecisive weakling who considers too much about morality and reputation. Once I am an eternal grade, I believe I will be even more dominant. Your essence will simply be consumed by mine then. What about me? Jack asked. Evil Janice turned to Jack with a deadpan face. I've answered that question before. You will be my lab rat. I will experiment on you until I find a way to extract the time sage out of you. Jack was amused that Janice knew the term lab rat. Did the mage of this world use a laboratory to conduct experiments? Yet, he was not amused enough to crack a smile at his current situation. Evil Janice walked one round around the room, inspecting the rune diagram. He was making sure everything was still in order. He then stopped in front of Jack's force field cell. He approached and stared at the force field wall. In particular, the spot where the small slit had appeared not long ago. He stared at the spot for quite some while, making both Jack and good Janice worry. He then tapped on that spot with one finger, making sure the force field wall was still solid. After he was sure that nothing was wrong with the force field, he stepped back. His eyes switched between Jack and good Janice a few times, both trying their best to look normal. After a while, he left without any parting word. Jack exhaled a relief. Evil Janice had walked out of his mana sense range. What the hell did you do to the cage? Good Janice asked. Like I said, I'm looking for a way out, Jack said. But I never expect your other self to take notice of that small crack. I need to make a hole big enough to escape in less than 3 hours if I am to try another attempt. If I fail when he is back, he might sense it for sure this time. He might do something about it then, but I still need more practice to achieve that. Can you practice without making that crack on the force field wall? Good Janice asked. I can, but it will take a longer time, Jack answered. How long is it already since I am here? It was Penuel who answered. It has been almost 2 days. Jack sighed. The convention should have concluded by now. He wondered how that event went. Inside the Liguritum realm, the Worldmaker had its guild headquarters in a region dominated by a main city called Quetzqua. The headquarters itself was named World Throne. Currently, in the basement of World Throne, 3 bound players were thrown into separate jail cells. These players were Genie, Leave Me Alone, and Red Death. If you want to strap me to your machine again, just do it already. Why waste time putting us in jail? Leave Me Alone asked. Master was there with them. He wanted to make sure these 3 were secured. He was currently staring at Leave Me Alone upon the question, but he didn't answer. It was because of Leave Me Alone, wilted, and Jack that his extraction machine was unusable anymore. Cindrillis fired her divine breath to help the 3 escape. That breath hit and damaged the extraction machine. The machine was an alien entity. It could not be created in this world. Master tried to repair the machine but failed. Thus, he needed another way. A way that was already ready to be used, but he only had one chance for it. Leave Me Alone returned Master's stare. He didn't back down even when he was incapacitated. Master turned to the 2 natives in the room. They were level 80 rare elites. No one except me is allowed to open their cells, Master said. Immediately sound the alarm if someone insists on doing so, or if any stranger steps foot into this room. Yes, my lord, the 2 responded. Take this. Use it in case of emergency. Master gave one of the natives a small rectangular plate. The 2 of you will take turns guarding these prisoners. The one who is guarding should always hold that plate. The 2 confirmed their understanding. One last thing. Master approached the 2 natives and whispered something to them. Finished giving his instructions, Master gave the 3 captives another glance before he left the room. Another day passed. Jack was still inside the force field cell. What he had been doing was trying to mask his mana with the mana controlling the force field cage. He was doing the same thing he had done to the chalice of blood every night. He was trying to fool the mana from the rune diagram into accepting his mana as a part of itself. If he was able to insert enough of his camouflaged mana, he could exert control over the force field, just like how he created the small slit a day earlier. To open a hole large enough for him to escape, he would need to gain greater control. In the first few hours of his captivity, he had tried brute force. He might not be able to use skills, spells, or tools, but he could still move and manipulate mana. He had tried using all his sword arts to break the wall. Most failed. Only the 9-in phantom sword was able to penetrate the force field wall, but the hole it created was too small. That hole also quickly closed afterward. Maybe if he could use the 9-in abyssal finger, things would be different. But he couldn't, so he had to make do with what he could. Luckily, he had enough practice with the chalice of blood. He had learned how to camouflage his mana. All he had to do was study this force field's particular mana and adjust his mana to imitate it. It was sort of like adjusting the frequency of a signal. His problem at the moment was he couldn't test how effective he was. He felt that he had camouflaged enough mana to control a sizable part of the force field to let him out, but he would need to be sure before he gave the command for that. If the hole wasn't large enough and he failed to get out, Evil Janus might detect his intervention on the force field the next time he came to visit. "How are you doing?" Good Janus asked from his cage. After seeing the small slit Jack produced yesterday, he had become hopeful of a chance to escape. "I don't know a euro. I think I should be able to make a big enough hole already, but I can't be sure. The only way to know is to test it," Jack answered. "If you fail, my other twin will find out." "I know. That's why I am in a dilemma." "Well, you have to try it sooner or later euro unless you think you can improve further." Janus was right. He had to take the risk or else they wouldn't be going anywhere. It was better to be sooner rather than later. If Evil Janus successfully became an eternal grade, they would be in a whole other level of trouble. "I will practice for a few more hours, then I will give it a go," Jack said and resumed what he was doing. Later that day, Evil Janus came to visit again. His grade was still the same. Jack also didn't sense any change in his mana intensity. This meant he had not taken any more victims yet, which was a good thing. Still, if Good Janus' estimation was correct, they didn't have much time. Evil Janus only needed another 1 or 2 more victims. Evil Janus didn't make any conversation. He was not a chatty person. He rarely talked during his time in the room. Only when his captives asked him something that he respond. That was even if he deemed the questions were worth responding to. After checking everything, Evil Janus left the room. Good Janus turned to Jack. His eyes asked if Jack was ready. Jack didn't respond. He simply closed his eyes and placed his hands on the force field wall. He did as what he had been doing these past few days. His mana crept into the force field and slowly made themselves a part of the cage system. He spent 1 hour doing this. Once he felt that he was ready, he sent the command. A slit several times longer than the last time appeared in the force field wall. Good Janus' eyes were wide again. It was as if someone had cut the wall and produced a long gash. The slit then widened. It was vibrating as it did. It was as if there were 2 opposite forces at work. One was trying to push the slit to close. Another was trying to force it to open wider. At the moment, the one with the open command seemed to be winning. The process was slow, though. It became even slower as the hole became wider. Jack's forehead was sweating from the exertion. Janus saw that the opening was wide already enough for a person. But if Jack tried moving, he might lose control and the hole could close before he managed to leave. Jack seemed to be aware of that. He continued to make the hole bigger. The hole opened a bit wider. Then it stopped. It appeared that this was the limit of his current control. Jack didn't try to dash for the exit. He used the safer method. Thankfully, he had the 100 synchronous thoughts. With one thought maintaining focus on keeping the hole open, his other thought moved his body. He slowly moved one of his legs out through the hole. His eyes were still closed. He was entirely relying on his mana sense to move. He then moved half of his upper body out. Janus was holding his breath. He wondered if Jack lost his concentration at this moment and the force field closed, would Jack be sliced into 2? Although he was curious about the answer, he prayed he didn't have to find out. Someone might have heard his prayer. Jack slipped out of the hole without an incident, leaving his hands still in contact with the force field. The hands then slowly moved to the edge of the hole. When they were near the edge, Jack pulled them out with lightning speed. The hole abruptly closed then. Phew, a euro! Jack exhaled a relief as he dropped to his butt. Good Janus also exhaled. He was so relieved that Jack had been successful. He displayed a genuine smile that Jack had only seen on young Janus' face. "Now go. Tell everyone about this," he told Jack. "If I do that, he might run and take you with him. We might not be able to find you again," Jack said. He wasn't getting up from the floor. "That's better than having him becoming an eternal grade," Janus said. "He can still be. If he hides, we won't know when he will attack. The faction leaders cannot continuously live in hiding. But they will have a better chance if they know who they are dealing with." What are you doing?" Janus asked. "I've seen him check this rune diagram every time he came here. I've also studied this diagram using my mana sense while I'm not working on my cage. I already know this diagram mechanism. I should need only 5 minutes to deactivate it." Jack looked at Janus as he worked on the diagram. He continued, "If I have you by my side, it will be easier to convince the others about my story. We will get out of here together." Jack took only 3 minutes. That already included deactivating the hidden rune diagram under the one powering the force field cage. The force field cage vanished abruptly once he shut down the rune diagram. Janus looked at his open cage. Before Jack arrived, he had resigned himself to his fate. When Jack created that small slit, a tiny hope bloomed in his heart. But deep down, he never believed that he would leave this room alive. Now that his cage was no more, he found it difficult to believe. He wondered if this was all a dream. "What are you waiting for? Hurry," Jack urged. Janus snapped out of his trance. He immediately jumped out. It should still be more than 1 hour before evil Janus made his routine visit. They had no problem getting to the outside with that time. Jack was about to head to the main room, which was also the Nexus world. But Janus stopped him. If evil Janus was not outside stalking his next victim, he was most likely inside that room, so they better avoid it. Janus took Jack to go via a different route. Jack followed. Janus was more familiar with this dimension. They walked through several dim hallways until they came upon a space with voids for walls. Janus stopped then. "Why do we stop?" Jack asked, confused. "Thesayuro, this hall shouldn't be here," Janus answered. "Uhayuro, so? Do you still know which way to go?" Jack asked again. "It doesn't matter which way. You two are not leaving this place." A sharp voice echoed through the space. Jack and good Janus turned to the source of the voice. Evil Janus was there. "Uhayuro, you know we are escaping Uyuro?" Good Janus asked. "Have you two forgotten about this thing?" Evil Janus revealed a long staff. He placed the staff vertically next to him. At the head of the staff was an eye-shaped sculpture. "The Eye of Ilios Uyuro?" Jack uttered. "It is called the Staff of Ilios now," Evil Janus said. "I have a captive blacksmith attached the artifact onto a staff with my aid, of course. It is now a magic weapon. One which has helped me greatly in my endeavor, and it still retained some of its previous functionality." Evil Janus tapped the staff and a projection appeared above him. It showed the image of Jack and good Janus in captivity. Jack was in the process of getting out of his cage. It was a replay of what just happened several minutes ago. "You were spying on us?" Good Janus asked. "I sensed you do something to your cage." Evil Janus pointed at Jack. "I can't tell what it is, but I am not taking any chances. Hence, I've been directing my staff surveillance ability to your room. I must say I'm not disappointed. For someone who has been able to climb from an unknown outworlder to the king of a country, I was right to not underestimate you. You know, there is one thing different from our previous encounter," Jack said. "What is that?" Evil Janus asked. "I am not in captivity," Jack said and took out his king badge. He sent the command to summon his royal agents. Nothing appeared. "This is a different dimension. You can't call outsiders here without my permission," Evil Janus said with a chuckle. "Ha! You think I only rely on my royal agents?" Jack summoned the Ras and Spark. The two faithful summons appeared by his side. "Hee cute. I do feel the need to exercise," Evil Janus said. He didn't appear concerned. "You might be a level 90 mythical, but don't think that we will lose," Jack exclaimed. "Master, calculating the probability, I reckon our chance of winning is 758%. Spark's computerized voice informed. Fuck! Solo? Are you on the enemy's side? How could you give such demoralizing news? Jack complained. I'm simply stating the fact, Spark replied without emotion. Doesn't matter. We have more people. We will beat him with our teamwork. Fuck the winning chance, Jack declared. He tried to rally everyone. Master, my winning chance is calculated based on the others who were hidden behind the void, Spark informed. My eyes can perceive mana, so I can see through the veil. I didn't know you have such an interesting summon, Evil Janice said. Another subject for me to experiment on once you are back in the cage. Well, since I've been found out a euro, Evil Janice waved his arm. Moving shadows were seen from inside the void. Soon after, a horde of young Januses walked out of the void. Jack could inspect the level and grade of these young Januses this time. A majority were rare elites and special elites ranging from level 60 to 80. A few were level 80 mythical grades. These young Januses had the usual smiles they always displayed. But Jack didn't think those smiles were friendly this time. They were now creepy as hell. Motherfucker euro, Jack cursed. He had control over all the other Januses? Jack asked the good Janus behind him. He is the true one. All the Januses here are just clones from other timelines. So yes, he can exert control if he wants. Aren't you also the true Janus? Jack asked. He is the more dominant one, good Janus replied. I'm not powerful enough to wrestle control of all those clones. Can you at least affect some of them? Jack asked. Jack cast Double Clone, Mirage Beast, and called out his golden wolves. They were hardly enough to deal with all these opponents, but they were better than nothing. Clone Januses remained smiling at Jack's effort, while Evil Janus simply displayed a slight smirk. I can only affect a few, good Janus answered, and I might only pause or slow them down. I won't be able to gain complete control of them. That will have to do, Jack said. I won't be able to join the fight then, good Janus added. Fuck. Just do it, Jack said. He sent his two clones, Spark, their ass, Clone their ass, and the golden wolves toward the Januses. He also used Beast Howl to strengthen all those minions. The young Januses continued to walk forward since they appeared. They were now in front of Evil Janus. Evil Janus never moved from his position. It was apparent that he was confident he didn't need to join the fight. The young Januses started casting spells when Jack's minions came at them. Multiple spells were unleashed. They were the various spells from all the 4 elite classes branched from the Mage Advanced class. Jack's golden wolves were fast. They tried their best to maneuver around the spells, but there were too many. They couldn't evade them all. Their golden fur provided them stronger defense than normal wolves, but it was still not enough to tank through so many spells. They were the first ones to perish from the spell's bombardment. Their ass had the highest defense and health point among Jack's minions. It was the most durable one. Jack also used Ultimate Beast, Gigantify Beast, and Beast Tantrum to turn their ass into an unstoppable beast. Many of the young Januses also used spells from the Summoner class. Their already large number was further bolstered. It was as if a small army had appeared inside that space. Their ass activated its armor's supersonic mode and used Tyrannical Charge to pierce through all the enemy summons. It was the first to arrive before the young Januses. It immediately used its AoE skills to disrupt the young Janus' spellcastings and started wreaking havoc. The other young Januses further away cast their offensive spells at their ass. They didn't seem concerned about hitting their clones. From the look of it, Evil Janus considered all these clones as expendable. Spark didn't have health point and defense as high as their ass. Its speed was also not as fast as their ass in its supersonic mode, but it had the finesse of a top martial artist. Its mana sense allowed him to maneuver through the tight bombardment from the enemy's spells. It then sent its wing blades to attack the young Januses from a distance, while engaging in melee with the enemy's summons. Jack's one clone transformed into Supreme Dragon form and used Lightning God Suit. He charged with Clone their ass tanking the way. By the time they forced their way to young Januses, Clone their ass had lost almost half its life. Unlike the real their ass, the clone didn't receive the armor's benefits and the buffs from Jack's skills. Dragon form Jack leaped out from behind Clone Theras, firing soul breath into where evil Janus was, but this breath was blocked by the multiple elemental walls conjured by the young Januses. Evil Janus remained in his position with a sneer. Jack's other clone used Lightning God Incarnation. His transformation blasted away all the enemy summons nearby. He then transformed into a lightning bolt and zoomed directly into young Janus's midst. Each time he stopped, he used AoE skills and spells to blast the young Januses in the vicinity. He turned into a lightning bolt again after 2 seconds, working his way towards where evil Janus was. Fully upgraded Divine Treasury Euro, evil Janus muttered. He was surprised by this reveal, but he wasn't too concerned. That divine skill was powerful, but it didn't last long. It won't turn the tide. But then, he sensed another divine power from the other side. He looked over and saw Dragon Jack. Around Dragon Jack were iron mammoths rampaging among his clones. This disruption caused his clones to be unable to stop Dragon Jack, who was coated with a soft glow. Dragon Jack flew at high speed in his direction. The strength of hope powered this Dragon Jack. "Mr. Stormwind Euro, you are indeed impressive," evil Janus muttered. He finally acted as the 2 Jacks approached. The staff of Ilios in his hand was lifted high. The eye sculpture at the top of the staff burst with ominous light. The dead sculpture turned into a real eye that looked around with a ravenous appetite. Evil Janus cast the teleportation spell as Lightning Jack arrived. He narrowly dodged the lightning blast emitted from Jack's hands. The lightning blast hit a nearby young Janus instead. Lightning Jack used his mana sense to trace where evil Janus had teleported to, but the trace somehow became blurry. As he looked, he saw multiple evil Januses at different spots. All looked at him with evil grins. The ominous eyes on top of the multiple staffs of Ilios shot rays of dark light. These rays converged on Lightning Jack. Lightning Jack felt as if a huge burden suddenly weighed on him. He had difficulty moving. His mind was a mess. He couldn't think straight. He tried willing himself to turn into a lightning bolt to escape, but it was as if his mental command never reached his body's motoric functions. Lightning Jack just stood there under the spell, wasting its precious second doing nothing. Damage numbers appeared above Lightning Jack as the dark rays stayed on his body. With Lightning God Incarnation's massive damage reduction, Lightning Jack was not in danger. However, he also couldn't do anything. The divine skill lasted only 3 minutes. So, every second passed without doing anything was a big waste of the skill. Dragon Jack floated above. He also couldn't tell which one was the real evil Janus. All of them had the same mana signatures. He had tried using their linked consciousness to wake Lightning Jack out of his trance, but there seemed to be a veil constantly shrouding Lightning Jack's mind. Even Penul's healing skills that removed status effects were not working. Dragon Jack cast tracing light beams. They were controlled and empowered by mana manipulations. The multiple light beams were very fast and their accuracy was precise. They spread out and struck all the evil Januses, but every one of those beams just passed through their targets. All these evil Januses were illusions. "Master, he is over there. Follow my wing blades." Jack heard Spark's voice. Spark had flown over while the young Januses were disrupted by the iron mammoths. Jack looked at where Spark's wing blades were heading. A barrier appeared at that spot, blocking the wing blades. Another evil Janus was seen inside that barrier. This was the real one. Once this real evil Janus appeared, the illusions vanished. This real one also had a dark ray that was locked on Lightning Jack. Spark could see through the illusion because it could perceive mana in its raw form. It had the same talent as Grace mana perception. Once the real evil Janus was revealed, Dragon Jack cast teleportation. He appeared above evil Janus, who had readied a spell for him. A black hole appeared right before Jack, but Jack disappeared again as soon as he appeared. He reappeared right behind evil Janus, who was surprised that Jack could use 2 teleports back-to-back. The second one didn't even need a spell formation. The second teleport was a skill teleport slash. Aside from covering longer distances than flash slash, this skill also could be executed from the air. unlike flash step and flash slash where the user needed stepping ground to execute. Once reappearing, Dragon Jack used Brave Slash combined with one-word slash. Though Evil Janus was surprised, he still acted fast. His spellcasting was very fast as Master. The spell he cast was Force Impact. The spell hit Jack and pushed him away as he was swinging his sword. Evil Janus knew the key to facing these melee opponents was keeping them away. Dragon Jack didn't stop swinging despite his opponent being out of melee range. His one-word slash using the legendary Great Stormbreaker was able to hit an enemy at a distance. When he finished swinging his Brave Slash, the golden light from the slash formed a straight line that moved forward. This golden line slammed into Evil Janus' barrier. As if a laser that sliced through a target, this golden line cut through the barrier and hit Evil Janus behind it. Argargayuro! Evil Janus let out a scream due to the pain. The golden line sliced into his left shoulder and caused a bloody wound. He looked with disbelief at the wound. Dragon Jack might have hit his target, but he then found himself to become extremely heavy. It turned out that multiple young Januses nearby had cast telekinesis at him. The multiple force bearing on him turned out too great even for his massive strength powered by the strength of hope. He was slammed into the ground by the power of the combined telekinesis. However, that one slash from Jack had caused Evil Janus' concentration to waver. The dark ray stopped coming out of his staff. Lightning Jack's mind was cleared. He didn't let this chance go. He turned into a lightning bolt and slammed into Evil Janus. At the same time, he threw Lightning God Barrage at the young Januses who were using their telekinesis on Dragon Jack. The lightning balls erupted with lightning explosions and forced those young Januses to forego their spells. Lightning Jack also used Realm of Sword God. Uncountable lightning swords rained down from the void above. All the while he blasted Evil Janus with lightning rays from his hands. Hee. I admit I have underestimated you, Mr. Stormwind, Evil Janus said. A dark aura erupted from his body, countering Jack's lightning rays that were showering him. He turned into a shadowy creature with one large eye at the center of his head. A dark beam was shot from this eye. The dark beam crashed into Lightning Jack and knocked him to the ground. Lightning Jack felt his head spinning. The dark beam just now also carried a strong mental attack. Dragon Jack, who was freed from telekinesis, had a good look at the transformed Evil Janus. Demonic possession? No, it looks different, he uttered. I think it is demonic possession, but it was not any version I recognized, Peniel said. The lone eye on Evil Janus' head was unmistakable. It was the Eye of Ilios. Jack thought perhaps this was another unscripted application by natives. Evil Janus might have found a way to merge the power of the artifact with his spell to create this unusual version of demonic possession. The large eye of Evil Janus continued firing dark rays at Lightning Jack. Every time the ray hit, Jack was assailed by a heavy migraine, rendering him unable to do anything. At the same time, Evil Janus' two hands shot dark energy bolts at Dragon Jack. The other young Januses also sent their spells to keep Dragon Jack and his other minions from approaching Evil Janus. What Evil Janus prioritized at the moment was to wait out Lightning Jack's divine form. Mayuro! Evil Janus, who had merged with his Staff of Ilios, had a heightened perception. His one eye saw the true Jack in the distance. That Jack stayed at the back with good Janus. True Jack was sitting on the ground doing nothing. No, not doing nothing. There was this goblet on the floor next to Jack. He focused his sight on this goblet. As someone sitting at the top of a league faction that focused on magic studies, he quickly identified that goblet. The goblet was the chalice of blood. The chalice of blood had threads of crimson hairs coming out of its surface. These hairs danced in the air even when there was no wind in this place. Oh no! He has turned his attention to us, Good Janus informed Jack. Good Janus had been using his mental link to stop or dissuade any young Januses who seemed to be coming in their direction. Those young Januses had been focusing on the battle against Jack's clones and minions, so any that turned attention to them were stray ones. It was not difficult for Good Janus to trick those clones. But after Evil Janus was aware of them, he consciously ordered the young Januses to go at them. Good Janus was unable to wrestle control from Evil Janus. Evil Janus didn't understand what Jack was trying to do, but he didn't want to take any chance. "Will you still take long?" Good Janus asked. His tone sounded urgent. Jack looked at the incoming horde. His tiny army of minions was not able to hold that tide. "I still need 1 minute," Jack said. The young Januses started casting spells. Jack used his cloak's elemental god barrier. A fiery dome was erected around him and Good Janus. Spells of various elements hit his barrier. Because every young Janus used different kinds of elements, Jack couldn't tell which element was the most advantageous for his barrier. He just hoped the barrier could stand for enough time. Good Janus focused his mind on the closest young Janus who had the highest level and grade. He couldn't win against evil Janus' control of the horde. But if he only focused on one, he probably could. One level 80 mythical young Janus turned his attention to his comrade by the side. He cast his spell in that direction. Lightning storm washed over, paralyzing many young Januses and canceling their spellcasting in the process. This allowed the intensity of their assault on Jack's barrier to weaken, buying Jack a few more seconds. "Good job, old man," Jack complimented. "I'm not that old yet," Good Janus protested. "I think I'm ready," Jack exclaimed. Jack used Judgment of Past Kings. He had checked with Penuel and Good Janus. Although this space prevented outside entities from entering, this equipment skill should still be available. This was because Judgment of Past Kings was not considered a summon skill. It was an offensive one, even though the attack conjured outside entities. Ever since he started training mana manipulation by camouflaging his mana into the Chalice of Blood, he had gained a better understanding of the chalice with each night of practice. What he was trying to do was to replicate what Marcus had done. He felt that he had almost managed it the night before he was captured by evil Janus, but he never tested it. At this moment, he was relying on this method to succeed. If it failed, then they were fucked. As usual, Thenodeep appeared first. Before Thenodeep carried out his attack, Jack sent the chalice a command. The crimson threads around the chalice spun into a tentacle. This crimson tentacle lashed out and stabbed into Thenodeep's back. Thenodeep jerked from the stab. He then blinked. Clarity came into his eyes. He looked around at the situation before turning to Jack. "Young King, you truly did it. I can't believe this is real. I thought you were just lying to cheer us up," Thenodeep exclaimed. Whenever Jack was at the palace, he always made time to go down to the basement where the old kings could be conversed with. He didn't have any need to speak with them. He just thought that these ghost kings must be bored to have nobody else to talk to. It was indeed so. Theroden and the others were extremely glad about Jack's visit. They talked about anything from kingdom matters to mundane things. Jack even brought Grace down there. Theroden and the others were surprised that someone other than Jack could see them. It was because Grace had the mana perception talent. Grace was also glad to meet these past kings. Ever since Jack let her join his court, she had dealt with more kingdom matters than Jack. Meeting these kings provided her with advice from people who were experienced with ruling a kingdom. Jack's original plan of replicating Marcus' technique was simply to help bring these ghost kings out to see the current world. Being cooped up inside a palace for eternity was surely not a fun thing. Jack had told them about this idea, but the ghost kings didn't believe him. Jack didn't expect the first time he did it to be under an emergency. He had no choice. This was the only method he could think of to bypass the system rules and give them additional fighting power. "Old King, please celebrate later. We are in a bind here," Jack said to Thenodeep. "Don't worry, young king. You have the support of your predecessor." Thenodeep cast his spell that summoned a great flood. But since he didn't disappear this time, he continued casting another spell. 2 water serpents appeared beside him, shooting water jet and protecting him. "Cool," Jack grinned. "Hey, you are going to miss Thuolden," Penuel warned. Thuolden had appeared and was about to carry out his sword attack. "Oh, shit," Jack exclaimed. He hurriedly sent a command to the chalice. Another crimson tentacle stabbed into Thuolden. Thuolden also greeted him jovially once he was in control. Jack replied with a simple greeting this time. He was ready for the next kings. One by one, the kings appeared and became Jack's fighting force. The last was, of course, Theroden. Theroden simply gave Jack a brief salute. "Young king," he said. "Old king," Jack greeted back. Theroden then turned his attention to the enemies. He let out a thundering roar. There were lots of summons among the young Januses. After Theroden's roar ended, many of these summons suddenly turned against their masters. "Holy Euro," Jack uttered. "That is beast dominance. It takes control of all hostile summons within range," Penuel informed. "Hee, I wonder what Spark will say about our success chance now," Jack said. He stood up. The elemental god barrier had been broken, but the past king's arrival had kept the enemies at bay. "You no longer need to exert control on your clones," Jack said to good Janus. He pointed to the chalice on the floor. "Protect this. Don't let it get moved." Jack brandished his weapons. He bet the enemy would now fight like hell to get to this chalice. Theroden was a level 90 mythical. He had the highest level among all the past kings. As the king who had founded Themisphere, he was said to have defeated many barbarian tribes and united all the humans into one country. Hence, it wasn't strange that he had a higher level than any sovereigns Jack had met, even when compared to Marcus. The rest of the kings had levels that ranged from level 70 to 85. Aside from Theroden, another two kings were also mythical grades, Thegramar and Thebalder. The others were rare elites. Thebalder was Themisphere's fourth king, who was a friend to the orcs and also the reason for their country's enmity with the VRMMO nation. He was a level 82 mythical grade. During the judgment of past kings, Thebalder used a sword to activate his skill, Earth Wrath. Here he fought with two weapons, a sword and an axe. He fought with the ferocity of an orc. Aside from some unique skills, he possessed many standard skills from the Berserker and Avenger classes. As for Thegramar, he was Themisphere's third king. He once led a military expedition into the Daflu region to search for treasure inside the ruin of an ancient civilization. His force met with Liguridium force, which came for the same purpose. Conflict ensued. During the battle, Thegramar slew the head of the expedition, which turned out to be the Liguridium's prince. This became the source of hostility between Themisphere and Liguridium. Thegramar was a level 85 mythical grade. He was a spellcaster. His spells comprised many spells from the Elementalist, Warlock, and Reaver classes. With the addition of 11 powerful combatants who were experienced in warfare due to their past lives, the tide appeared to be turning. The young Januses were beaten back. All of Januses were spellcasters. Hence, they were vulnerable in melee. Their meat shields came from their summons. But almost one-third of these summons switched sides because of Theroden's beast dominance. This further caused disadvantages to the Januses. Theroden's main weapon was an unusual weapon, a bladed whip. Its long reach allowed him to hit the opponents as he rode his trusty pet, Terex. Terex charged forward to where Theras was. Seeing its kind fighting alongside it, Thera's fighting spirit was roused. It fought more fiercely than it had ever been. Good Janus cast a spell that conjured an illusory shield that protected himself, Jack, and the chalice. Jack cast Magic Field to increase both his and Good Janus' spellcasting ability. He then cast Orb of Storm and Perpetual Lightning Judgment. With his advanced mana manipulation, the lightning snakes from the spell slipped through his allies without hitting them and struck the enemies. Almost all the young Januses were hit by this spell due to its extended range. A good portion of them were paralyzed, and whatever spells they were casting were cancelled. The 11 kings didn't waste this opportunity. They pounced on these Januses while they were down. "Shit!" Jack cursed. "What?" Good Janus asked. "Never mind. Continue casting spells," Jack instructed. The reason for his curse was because of his clone that was using the lightning god Incarnation. It was the end of the divine skill's duration and Jack was about to carry out his finishing attack, but evil Janus cast a spell that teleported Jack far into the void. Jack's finishing attack couldn't cover the range back. His finishing attack ended up exploding where there was no enemy around. Evil Janus either knew about his divine skill's final attack or he was able to sense the incoming attack. Either way, that ultimate attack was wasted. Dragon Jack, with the strength of hope, was still battling through the young Januses that protected evil Janus. Spark was fighting beside him some time ago, but the spirit weapon suffered too many attacks. Most of young Janus's spells were AoE, and there was only so much Spark could do to avoid them. It didn't have as high an health point and defense compared to Thuras, so it was losing health point faster than the others. Spark tried to use its finishing mode the same as Lightning Jack, but this also failed. Evil Janus turned intangible when Spark came charging with its finishing mode. Evil Janus was using the Ghost Form spell. Spark's finishing mode exploded without harming Evil Janus, but it did take out a few young Januses nearby. With only Dragon Jack and Thuras, the two were having difficulty until Theridon and Terex came to the rescue. The table was then turned. Hergagayuro, you people are truly exasperating. Evil Janus growled. There was clear resentment in his tone. The mage was furious this time. I will make you all regret Thesayuro. The dark aura surrounding Evil Janus suddenly turned denser. He was also growing larger. He no longer looked like a human. He was like a darkness-type monster with one large eye in his head. Oh no! He uses the essences he has collected, Good Janus informed. What does that mean? Jack asked. He sacrifices all the essences from the faction leaders he killed to fuel himself. If he wants to become eternal, he will have to kill the same number of faction leaders all over again. That is good, isn't it? Jack said. Good for the world. Bad for us. He might have lost the essence, but he gains a temporary boost of power that probably put him close to an eternal grade power. Evil Janus didn't take long to showcase his power. The eye of Ilios on its head shot out a thick dark beam that blasted everything in its way. The beam went all the way to where True Jack and Good Janus were located. Both Jack and Good Janus cast Magic Wall. The two illusory walls blocked the beam, but they cracked as soon as the beam touched them. They broke a second later. Jack activated Gold Scale Armor just before the beam hit. Good Janus cast Phantasm Armor, which conjured a ghost-like suit onto his body. Jack and Good Janus were smacked by the beam. Good Janus tumbled back and fell to the ground, but Jack just skidded on the ground a few meters back due to the resistance from his Gold Scale Armor. It's a good thing neither they nor the beam hit the chalice on the ground. Even with the protection from the Gold Scale Armor, Jack lost half his life from that one hit. Penuel hurriedly used Fast Heal on Jack, bringing his health point back to full. Crap! Jack cursed. He turned to Good Janus, who was standing back up. Hey! Do you have a mega spell? He asked. I have, but the enemy won't let us complete it, Good Janus answered. Get ready to cast it, Jack instructed. He then turned to the front and called, Thebalder, Thegramar, Thuolden, come over here. Young king, is that how you address your seniors? Thebalder complained, but he and the others still came following Jack's call. I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. Look, I'll need you three to prepare, Jack told them. Dragon Jack, who was still protected by Strength of Hope, came to Evil Janus to stop him from advancing. Jack used 100 Shadow Strikes when he got into Evil Janus range. The skill hit, but Evil Janus' already large dark body expanded again. The darkness covered Dragon Jack, who just finished the strikes. He then found this darkness became denser. What the others saw from the outside was Dragon Jack getting strapped up by Evil Janus' darkness. The darkness was as if pieces of long paper coiling around Dragon Jack until he was completely covered like a cocoon. Evil Janus then detached from this cocoon and moved forward. Theridon and Terex fused into one as they performed combination assault on Evil Janus. Evil Janus used teleport, dodging the assault and leaving the duo behind. Evil Janus rushed forward to where True Jack and Good Janus were. When the other kings who were in his way tried to stop him, his dark body birthed several dark tentacles. He then spun at high speed while continuing onward. The dark tentacles whipped his surroundings following his spin. The kings who tried to stop him were smacked away by the tentacles. Even while spinning, he could still cast spells. Multiple dark balls spread out. These balls exploded upon contact. Where the balls exploded, they created strong gravity fields. Those who were in the vicinity were pulled by these gravity fields and were with the path cleared up. True Jack and the others came into range. 5 of them stood before the chalice of blood, protecting it. Evil Janus then noticed multiple runes unable to move freely. Evil Janus himself wasn't affected by these gravity fields. His dark body glided through these gravity fields without any sign of encumbrance. He cast another spell. A river of darkness spread forward. From this river, waves of dark energy splashed to the left and right, damaging those nearby as well as pushing them away. The dark river created a clear path for him. With the path cleared up, True Jack and the others came into range. 5 of them stood before the chalice of blood, protecting it. Evil Janus then noticed multiple runes were generated by those 5. Those 5 were preparing rune techniques and mega spells. When Evil Janus came into view, Jack cast the superior acceleration, which spell formation he had already prepared. Jack targeted himself and the other 4 next to him. He then cast Time Realm to increase their speed further. Evil Janus felt himself slowed by the Time Realm. He uttered a growling noise while speaking. "How dare you use spells from a class that should have been rightfully mine? Then take another one, sucker," Jack shouted as he cast Time Lock. With the acceleration in effect, the spell was as if instant cast. Evil Janus didn't have the time to react. "Now!" Jack shouted. With the effect of the superior acceleration, the others were already close to completing their rune techniques and mega spells. They purposefully slowed it down to wait for Jack's signal, which was now given. Thigremar's mega spell was called Purgatory World. The spell covered a large area with golden flames. These flames dealt light and fire damage. These flames also degraded armor and reduced the defensive and resistance values of everything inside its AoE. The longer someone stayed within the spell's AoE, the higher the reduction became. Theobaldr's rune technique was Pulverizing Chains. It was a ranged technique. It conjured several giant chains with blades all over their surfaces. If these chains managed to catch their target, they would bind this target, keeping it in place and dealing large physical damage over time. With these chains binding Evil Janus, he was unable to flee even after the 2-second duration of time lock was over. Held by the pulverizing chains, he was forced to stay inside Thigremar's Purgatory World for its full duration. Thuolden's rune technique was a more instant type. It was the same rune technique used by the Moes when he tried to kill Jack in the past. The technique created a giant purple energy sword that stabbed forward. This rune technique had the name of Royal Slaying Blade. The Royal Slaying Blade was also a ranged technique. The purple energy sword pierced through Thigremar's Purgatory World and stabbed into Evil Janus, delivering huge physical damage. Good Janus also completed his mega spell. His mega spell was called Storm Wrath. The spell created a sphere of intense wind and lightning energy that battered everything within the sphere. Evil Janus was extremely startled. He was just about to take action, but these rune techniques and mega spells were already on him without him seeing them being cast. He understood then he had been affected by Time Lock, one of his teacher's potent spells. "Peniel!" Jack shouted. He had also completed his rune technique, but unlike the others, his was a melee technique. Peniel used invulnerability just as Jack completed his teleportation spell. He appeared behind Evil Janus, who was bound by pulverizing chains, and then stabbed his infernal cleansing flame into the bound mage. Before his invulnerability was over, he quickly cast Wind Jet to get out of the area ravaged by the 2 mega spells. As they watched from the outside, they were surprised to find that Evil Janus' health point bar went down very slowly. They had not even devoured half of his life yet. By the look of it, these rune techniques and mega spells were still not enough to defeat Evil Janus. What the euro he was hit by 3 rune techniques and 2 mega spells. How can he survive? Jack uttered as he watched Evil Janus' health point bar. The 2 mega spells and 2 rune techniques affecting Evil Janus were near completion, but his health point was still half full. It is probably his unique dark form. It must give him very high damage reduction, Good Janus presumed. "His eye!" Jack exclaimed. After they had a good look, some sort of a translucent veil shrouded Evil Janus' body. The large eye on Evil Janus' head was pulsing. With each pulse, the veil turned more tangible. "The eye was using some kind of skill to mitigate the damage," Jack said. He then asked Peniel, "Do you know what that skill is?" Peniel shook her head. Never mind that. I'm going to try something, Jack said. He turned to Good Janice. Do you also have the spell that teleports a target like what he used on my clone? I have, Good Janice answered before asking. What are you going to do? Not me. My other clone, Jack said. Dragon Jack had arrived. He used his natural wind jet and flew directly into the chaotic world covered in golden flames, windstorms, and lightning calamity. His lightning god suit had already ended, but his strength of hope was still on. Even protected by this divine power, Dragon Jack still lost health point extremely fast. He used Gold Dragon Vitality halfway to replenish and double his health point. Arriving before Evil Janice, he used Devouring Cross, refilling his life again. The damage from the Devouring Cross was greatly mitigated by the translucent veil. This confirmed his analysis. However, the purpose of his barging into this world of elemental calamity was not to land the Devouring Cross. It was to get close to Evil Janice. When his Devouring Cross landed, the air right in front of Janice's head shimmered. It was not so obvious due to all the flames, winds, and lightning, but Evil Janice could sense an attack coming. Evil Janice didn't do anything about it, though. Firstly, he was confident of the defensive veil he had conjured. Secondly, there was nothing he could do. He had to fully concentrate to maintain this veil. A long black light flew out from that shimmering air with lightning speed. This thin black light pierced through Evil Janice's veil. Evil Janice didn't have the time to think about how his veil was so easily penetrated because that black light stabbed right into the large eye in his head. Arga Hayuro! Evil Janice cried out. His hands went into his one eye that had shut from that stab. Now! Jack called. Good Janice had prepared the spell formation. He cast the spell once he received Jack's signal. The Dragon Jack next to Evil Janice vanished and appeared next to them. His life was only 1/3 left. Penuel quickly used her healing skill on him. Continue attacking, Jack exclaimed. They fired their ranged attacks into Evil Janice inside the elemental sphere. Young Janices tried to get to Evil Janice to help him, but they were stopped by the Themisphere's past kings. Theroden and Jack's second clone had also returned and wreaked havoc among the young Janices. Evil Janice was only disabled for a short instant, but it was enough since the defensive veil was no more. Evil Janice one eye opened again. It was emitting blood-red light this time. This eye looked at Jack for a brief moment. Jack could feel the hatred from that stare. It then looked away in the chalice's direction. That red eye pulsed. As it did, the air above the chalice shimmered. Protect the chalice, Jack shouted. Thebalder, Thuolden, and Thegramar were staying near the chalice. They readied themselves. Thegramar cast a spell that conjured lightning fences around the area where the air was shimmering. Something colossal suddenly materialized from that shimmering air. This thing did a swipe as soon as it appeared, destroying the lightning fences as if they were nothing. At the same time, the shockwave sent the three kings flying. It then landed hard on the ground, knocking the chalice over. As the chalice tumbled, Theroden and all the past kings vanished. Jack and Good Janice were dumbfounded by the sudden turns of events. Everything happened so fast. Now only did they register the thing that had appeared out of the shimmering air was a dragon. Not just any dragon. It was a true dragon. One that Jack knew and had seen before. Timezizes. The yellow dragon stared at Jack briefly before turning to Evil Janice, who was still imprisoned inside the elemental sphere. Timezizes cast telekinesis at Evil Janice. His telekinesis was so powerful that it broke the pulverizing chains from Thebalder. Free from the chains, Evil Janice was dragged out by Timezizes' telekinesis. Stop him, Jack shouted. He cast telekinesis at Evil Janice. Good Janice did the same. Their spells hit Evil Janice. The two spells and the telekinesis from Timezizes were like two invisible forces pushing Evil Janice in opposite directions. One tried to hold Evil Janice inside the elemental sphere. The other was trying to pull him out. Unfortunately, Timezizes had far greater intelligence stat. Jack and Good Janice couldn't compete with the Eternal Grade Dragon. Evil Janice was plucked out of the ongoing mega spells. Only Jack's infernal cleansing flame was still ravaging his body. Evil Janus knelt on the ground after being saved. The white flames burning his body soon ran out of duration. Neither Jack nor good Janus dared to do anything with Timezizes next to Evil Janus. Evil Janus still had over 30% health point left. Jack looked at the situation around them. A large portion of young Januses had been defeated, but there was still plenty left. Evil Janus might only have 1/3 of his life left, but he was still a force to be reckoned with. Not to mention the Themisphere's ex-country guardian, who had made it clear that he was Evil Janus' ally. No matter how they assessed the situation, it was a clusterfuck. On Jack's side, there were only his clones, Thuras, and good Janus. The 5 of them watched the enemies with apprehension. Jack couldn't tell for sure, but it seemed like the dragon was grinning. Timezizes said to Evil Janus, who was standing up, "When I agreed to your condition, I never expected it would be to help you against the object of our deal." Evil Janus didn't respond. He took out a potion and drank it. His health point started recovering. Jack and the others didn't dare do anything to prevent it with Timezizes right next to Evil Janus. Although things looked to be in Evil Janus' favor, he didn't look happy. On the other hand, his expression showed that he was trying to hide his fury. He stared at Jack menacingly with his one blood-red eye. "Grahayuro, you truly have made me very angry, Mr. Stormwind," Evil Janus growled. "You forced me to let go of the chance to extract that time sage from you." "Do you know what he means?" Jack asked Good Janus. Good Janus shook his head. "Whatever deal my evil twin made with Timezizes, he made it after he separated from me. More correctly, we made the deal 3 days ago," Timezizes said with a grin. Both Evil Janus and Timezi just stood there without making any move. Young Januses were the same. They stopped attacking a while ago and just surrounded Jack and the others. Jack's 2 clones were both back to human form. The beast form skill had ended. The strength of hope was still in effect, but with the current situation, it didn't seem like it would make any difference. Maybe that's why Evil Janus and Timezizes just watched them with playful stares. 3 days ago? That's when I was captured, Jack said. Yes, after I found out that you suspected me and even laid a trap for me. I need to prepare for contingency, Evil Janus said. So I visited Timezizes. I have known about his grudge against you. He had gone into seclusion and never did anything because he thought you were still under the protection of Goddess Serenity. I knew that it was no longer so since the aftermath of the Hydrorond War. If I had known, I would have taken action then, Timezizes growled. So, after you fell in my hand, I went to meet Timezizes. I only need the essence from a few more faction leaders. He promised to come to my aid if I encountered any complications. In exchange, I will give you to him. This exchange is supposed to happen only after I extract your Time Sage class. Hee. Imagine my surprise when I see who he needs help against after coming here. Timezizes chuckled. He then said to Evil Janus with scorn, I can't believe you are having trouble against a weakling such as him. It's all because of that artifact. Evil Janus pointed at the chalice of blood on the floor. The chalice of Bloodayuro? Whatever. Is this space secured for the Outworlder's rebirth cycle? Timezizes asked. Yes, he will revive here if he is killed. Evil Janus confirmed. Timezizes stared at Jack menacingly. Then, it is time for me to enact vengeance for the Moes. The dragon was just about to lunge forward, but a loud boom was suddenly heard. The sound startled everyone. Jack also felt the ground shake. A second boom was heard. Jack realized then it was not the ground that shook. It was the entire space that seemed to have shuddered. A third boom, and this time, a ray of light was seen from above. Everyone looked up and saw the void above had cracked. From this crack, that ray of light shone through. Another boom, and the crack became bigger. Several figures dropped from that crack. When they landed, everyone saw that it was a group of armored and cloaked people. Leading this group were 2 people. One was a draconian with an eye patch. He wore white plate armor and carried a humongous greatsword on his back. The other one was a cloaked ethereal. Good Janus recognized the 2 leading figures. Master Ragorth? Master Hashi, he called. Jack had never met the two, but he knew their names. Ragorth was the faction leader of the League of Champions, while Hashi was the top native assassin in the Assassin's Guild. Ragorth and Hashi looked around the place with bewilderment. While everyone inside this space was flabbergasted by the appearance of this new group, Ragorth and Hashi's expressions showed that they were also clueless about what was going on there. Master Janus? King Stormwind? What exactly happens here, Euro? Ragorth asked. Before good Janus could reply, Jack beat him to it. He spoke while pointing at evil Janus. Master Ragorth. Master Hashi. This creature is an evil spirit that possesses Master Janus clones. He is the culprit in the assassination of League faction leaders. He is? Hashi asked. His eyes narrowed at evil Janus. Evil Janus' appearance at the moment didn't resemble a human. His body was shrouded by dark smoke, and he had only one large eye on his head that emitted dark red light. Eyewitnesses mentioned a blurry creature as the perpetrator. That shadowy monster does look blurry, Ragorth said. So that girl spoke the truth. The murderer is truly here, Hashi said. He brandished two large curved daggers. A translucent green aura coated the two daggers. I'm going to avenge my leader's death. Evil Janus didn't bother to explain. There was nothing to explain anyway. He was truly the faction leader's murderer. He was curious about how these two managed to locate and even intrude into this pocket space, but finding the answer to that question would have to wait. He had to deal with the problem at hand first. He was going to target Ragorth sooner or later, considering Ragorth was one of the strongest faction leaders. Now that Ragorth was here, might as well make use of the situation. Timezizis. Deal with those two, evil Janus commanded. Deal with them yourself. My quarrel is with this outworlder, Timezizis replied. Remember our deal, evil Janus exclaimed. I will capture the outworlder. He will be yours. Considering the payment for their deal was Jack, Timezizis could just take Jack now. He didn't need to obey evil Janus. But despite his vengeance-fueled rage, he was still a true dragon. He had his dignity. A deal had been struck. He had to honor it. He grunted and headed toward Ragorth and Hashi. When Timezizis advanced, the standstill was ended. Everyone started moving again. Young Januses resumed casting their spells. This time their targets were the members of the League of Champions and Assassins Guilds. Ragorth and Hashi didn't bring many followers. The young Januses still outnumbered them despite having been culled by the past Themisphere kings. Even so, the ones they brought were elites. These faction members, seeing that they were targeted, weren't just letting themselves be sitting ducks. All the cloaked figures from the Assassin's Guild vanished in the blink of an eye, while the League of Champions warriors dashed in different directions. They and the young Januses soon clashed. Ragorth and Hashi didn't retreat despite Timezizis' menacing advance. Ragorth unslung the gigantic greatsword on his back and swung it forward. Following the swing, the greatsword grew to a bigger size. Hashi thrust his daggers. As he did, uncountable images of daggers stabbing forward were seen. Timezizis swung his massive claw. The impact between his claw with Ragorth and Hashi's assaults caused a shockwave. The result of the exchange sent Ragorth and Hashi a distance away. Timezizis looked at his two adversaries with disdain. Both Ragorth and Hashi expected this outcome. Both of them were level 90 mythicals, but Timezizis was one grade higher. That girl is right again, we do need this potion, Hashi said while taking out a small bottle from his back. Ragorth did the same. If Jack saw the bottles, he would recognize them. The bottles in Ragorth and Hashi's hands were divine might potions. Timezizis also recognized the bottles, but he had been underestimating the two, so his response was late. Ragorth and Hashi acted fast. They immediately drank the bottles after revealing it. The two's aura increased exponentially. Humph! Even if you get a boost, the two of you are still not my opponent, Timezizis uttered. Is that so, Ragorth said. He took a low stance. His skin was covered by crimson tattoos. His armor also glowed with light that was usually seen when key weapon was used. The great sword in his hand had grown to 3 times his body size. He was as if holding a huge pillar. Yet he didn't appear encumbered. His body abruptly shot forward. This movement skill was the same as Spring Crown's propelling dash. Ragorth's charging speed from the propelling dash was very fast, but Timezizi's dragon eye was able to catch the movement. Timezizi's slapped downward, attempting to swat Ragorth into the ground. Ragorth's colossal greatsword swung up and collided with Timezizi's massive claw. Different than before. This time, the impact threw the two back. Ragorth retreated a farther distance, which showed that Timezizi's was still stronger, but it was no longer as one-sided as before. Timezizi's was unhappy with the outcome. When he was about to retaliate, he felt a sting on his back. Rarga Euro! He roared both in fury and pain. He swiveled backward with his claw, but the one who hurt him had retreated. He saw that it was the guy from the Assassin's Guild, Hashi. "Why didn't I sense your attack?" Timezizi's asked in puzzlement. "Hehe. If my attack can so easily be detected, do you think I will still be called the greatest assassin?" Hashi returned the question. What Hashi used was mana concealment, one that was very advanced. His degree of mastery was even better than Wang's because he could completely mask his mana during an attack. Timezizi's felt his back itch. He felt his mana was in chaos at the spot where he had been stabbed. He also lost a bit of health point every second. "You use poison," Timezizi's exclaimed. "Of course. Which respectable assassin doesn't use poison?" Hashi replied. "Fine. You want to die? I will fulfill your wish then." Timezizi's opened his mouth wide. Heavy torrents of yellow fumes poured out of his mouth. It was his divine earth breath. Hashi turned into multiple shadows that ran everywhere. Timezizi's couldn't pinpoint which one was the real one with his mana sense. In the end, he tried to swipe all the shadows, but there were too many and they ran around haphazardly. His breath ended up hitting young Janus's and the other faction members who were unfortunate enough to be in the path. Ragorth came from the side when Timezizi's was firing his divine breath. Unlike Hashi, Ragorth couldn't conceal his mana, so Timezizi's sensed the attack. Timezizi's claw clanged with the giant greatsword. Ragorth used Key Strike in the blow. Timezizi's claw ended up getting smashed to the side. Ragorth followed with Deca Slash into Timezizi's exposed side. A move similar to Pentaslash but landed 10 successive rapid slashes instead of 5. Each slash produced higher damage than the last. Feeling humiliated by the successive hits, Timezizi's stopped his breath and slammed into the ground. This produced a localized earthquake that knocked Ragorth off balance. At the same time, earth spears thrust out of the ground, impaling Ragorth. Ragorth's key armor reduced the damage he received, but he was unable to take a proper stance due to the earthquake. He activated his wing tool to escape. He was paying attention to Timezizi's next move as he flew up. He saw Timezizi's eyes glowed. "Oh no!" he thought, but his mind became empty after that last thought. He had been hit by Timezizi's divine stone gaze. His mind was petrified. Timezizi's stretched his neck. His mouth was opened wide, ready to chomp Ragorth, who was helpless in the air. Hashi suddenly appeared in front of Timezizi's. He waved his hand. A bright flash was produced with that wave. At the same time, Timezizi's felt stinging pain in his eyes. Timezizi's was forced to shut his eyes and jerked backward. What Hashi used was the flashing powder throw. It was a variant of Hidden Weapon Specialist's powder throw. It not only caused blind to the target, but it also disrupted the opponent's mana sense for several brief seconds. While Timezizi's was blinded both in visual and sense, Hashi grabbed Ragorth and pulled him to a safe distance. When Timezizi's regained his sight, he saw Ragorth had broken free from his divine stone gaze. He snarled. These two proved to be more troublesome than he thought. When the battle reignited, Jack sent his two clones to Evil Janus, who was also heading his way. Evil Janus had drunk 2 different recovery potions during the standstill. His life, which was only 1/3 left, had recovered to almost half. His eye pulsed with red light. Jack's 2 clones were stunned when this red light washed over them. Evil Janus cast 2 spells in succession. Magic Bind, which was evolved to produce multiple binding rings. These magic rings locked the 2 Jack's bodies. The second spell was Black Hole. Jack had run out of his defensive skills, so the two Jacks were helpless as they were sucked by the black hole. The instant kill effect triggered and the two Jacks were devoured by the black hole. When Evil Janus was about to resume his advance, he was bewildered when he found Jack to be smiling. "What are you smiling for?" Evil Janus mocked. "Do you think you are safe just because Ragorth and Hashi came to your aid?" "Oh, I'm not smiling because of them. I'm smiling because of that big tear above." Jack pointed at the crack in the void above. The crack was mending, but the gap was still visible. Evil Janus then noticed that Jack was holding a small badge. It was his king badge. All of a sudden, 10 additional figures appeared around Jack. They were his royal agents. Jack barked his orders without delay. "Duke, Jonathan, Lindsay, Robinson, help the League faction members deal with the clones. Erin, Laurent, Howard, help those two against that big dragon. Amy, nerd, support me. Elaine, play music that boosts everyone's stats. Amy, nerd, support me. Elaine, play music that boosts everyone's stats." Evil Janus was too startled by these additional reinforcements. His response was late. Elaine was the first to take action when the other royal agents spread out. She thumped her zither and a reverberating shockwave radiated. It was a skill she had just learned in the Brave Academy debilitating broadcast. It was a sound skill that caused magical damage and stunned enemies in a large area around her. Evil Janus was stunned by this sound attack. Jack and Thuras took the chance to fuse into a huge meteor using combination assault and slammed into him. When he was reeling, Hell Whip cast by Nerd coiled around his body. Jack said to Evil Janus, "I still have another trump card, you know?" Jack used Reset. He then cast Double Clone and resummoned Spark. His true body then exploded into lightning form while his first clone transformed into Supreme Dragon form and his second clone cast Time Lock. "Time to wrap this up," Jack declared. He cast Superior Acceleration. With boosted speed, he activated Soul Azura, his weapons over limit, and performed the burst attack of his sword art. Uncountable lightning slashes battered Evil Janus' body during the short 2 seconds he lost. At the end of those 2 seconds, everyone landed a combined assault. Spark and his two clones were also under Superior Acceleration. Spark used its finishing mode. Dragon Jack used Soul Breath. Clone Jack cast Perpetual Lightning Judgment. Lightning Jack used his weapon skill, the God Annihilating Sword. Amy and Nerd also cast their offensive spells. Nerd cast Warlock's Hellish Explosion. Amy cast Celestial Explosion, which was similar to Hellish Explosion but dealt light damage instead of chaos. The two's attacks didn't land at as precise timing as Jack's, though. One of his royal agents landed an attack with perfect timing. It was Elaine, who used Sound Cannon empowered by mana manipulation. The combined attacks created a spectacular explosion. When the dust settled, Evil Janus was no longer in his shadow form. He was back to his original form. The Staff of Ilios I was also back to its sculpture state. Evil Janus' health point was less than 5%. When Lightning Jack was about to land the killing blow, he sensed a powerful attack from the side. He turned and saw massive torrents of rocks coming his way. He turned into a lightning bolt to dodge. These torrents of rocks swirled around Evil Janus, protecting him. They swatted anyone who tried to get close. "You miserable mage! How do you get defeated so fast?" Timezizis bellowed. The torrents of rock were his spell. Even with Erin, Laurent, and Howard joining the fray, he was still able to watch the situation on the other side. "That won't save him," Dragon Jack exclaimed and used Gold Dragon Breath. The Gold Dragon Breath had a powerful corrosive effect. The stones surrounding Evil Janus seemed to decompose rapidly. Clone Jack used his other weapon skill, World Splitter. The energy from his sword cut through the decomposed rocks, destroying them. A shadow suddenly zipped through the open path and landed a stab into Evil Janus' body. It was Hashi. The assassin was also paying attention to the battle on this side. He used Combat Clone and left that clone to fight Tiamezis. He himself rushed here once he saw the opportunity. "I will avenge my leader," he exclaimed. His dagger contained powerful venom. Evil Janus' health point dropped rapidly. "Oh no! You won't steal my prey," Lightning Jack exclaimed. He shot back using Wind Jet. The side he was facing still had some defensive rocks swirling. He didn't have the time to move to the side where the path was opened by World Splitter. He used Ghost Sword and stabbed using the one-word thrust. Stormbreaker was still in its overlimit state. The maxed overlimit increased Stormbreaker's reach by a great deal. The weapon had the length of a spear in its current state. The Ghost Sword skill allowed Jack to bypass all the defensive rocks and reach Evil Janus behind. His thrust accurately stabbed Evil Janus' forehead. That last stab finally took out Evil Janus' health point. Unlike other natives, Evil Janus' body disintegrated when he died. Several loots fell. Jack had used his runestone of luck when he delivered his stab. Rag. Uselessa Euro. Timezizis cursed. Hashi turned to Jack. His face was slightly dissatisfied. He was supposed to take this killer's life to avenge his leader. He looked at Timezizis. He had achieved his objective. He wondered if he should continue fighting that dragon. While Hashi was having second thoughts, Lightning Jack, Dragon Jack, Thuras, Amy, Nerd, and Elaine went to assist the others who were battling the yellow dragon. Young Janus clones stopped fighting after Evil Janus was defeated. Good Janus could now assume control of them. He instructed them to help Ragorth and the others fight Timezizis. Suddenly finding himself beset by everyone, Timezizis was now regretting his deal. "Rarik, this is the worst deal I have ever made," he shouted in frustration. Clone Jack stayed behind with Good Janus. Aside from the two, everyone else crowded around Timezizis. Hashi decided to join the fray when he saw his Assassin's Guild members join the fight against the dragon. Jack was walking toward the loots dropped by Evil Janus. A tiny orb emitting a purple light floated among the loot. It floated towards Jack. Jack was about to grab it, thinking it to be some sort of special loot, but this orb avoided Jack's hand and floated past him. It continued onward toward Good Janus. It stopped before the mage and stayed there. "What is that?" Jack asked. "A euro, it's my evil twin's essence," Good Janus answered. "It came to me by itself since it was originally a part of me." "Oh, Hayuro, wait. Are you going to accept that essence? Do you think that's a good idea? If you fuse back with him, won't his evil thoughts influence you again?" In theory, it should not. He had died. Just as he absorbed the essence from the faction leaders he killed, his consciousness is not influenced by them. "I shouldn't be as well." "You said in theory, Euro, you don't sound very confident," Jack said. "I'm no to Euro," Janus replied. His hand went forward to touch the purple orb. "Are you truly sure that's a good idea?" Jack asked again. Janus' hand paused upon Jack's question, but it moved again soon. The instant he touched the tiny orb, it dissipated. Jack could sense all the mana from the orb poured into Janus from the touch. Janus himself didn't exhibit any changes. Jack used his inspect and found that Janus had returned to his original level and grade, level 90 mythical. "Uhayuro, hello? Do I have a reason for concern?" Jack asked. Janus turned to him and smiled. "Don't worry. I'm still the one who was imprisoned with you these past few days." "Phew. I'm relieved." Jack heaved a long sigh. "You are a very trusting person, Mr. Stormwind." "I could have lied to you," Janus said. "I believe that smile." Jack pointed at Janus' face. "The evil one never smiled like that. Even when we met for the first time when you and he were still one, you didn't smile like that. He is gone." Jack turned his attention back to the loots. One specific item among the loots drew most of Jack's attention. It was a magic staff, one with an eye sculpture at its top. "Staff of Ilios Euro," Jack muttered and picked that staff up. Staff of Ilios, level 8099, legendary magic weapon, magical damage, 1, 250, range, 80 meters, attack speed, 1, energy, 500, intelligence plus 55, mana point plus 500, vision bending. Create a copy that will stay within a radius of 10 meters from the user. The user will be invisible for as long as the copy exists. Copy will vanish if the user receives an attack. Duration, 3 minutes. Cooldown, 3 hours. Iliostare. Shoot a beam that deals 200% chaos damage every second. Causes dizzy status. If the beam hits the same target for more than 10 seconds, the damage is increased to 250% chaos damage every second. If the beam hits the same target for more than 20 seconds, the damage is increased to 300% chaos damage every second. Duration. The first 5 seconds is free. Every second afterward will consume 30 mana point each second, until a maximum of 30 seconds. Cooldown 1 hour. Eye of Surveillance. Consume 1000 mana cores to project an image of a targeted place. Range, 50 kilometers. Duration. The first 5 minutes is free. Every second afterward will consume 20 mana point each second, until a maximum of 15 minutes. Cooldown, 2 hours. Wow, this staff has 3 active abilities, Jack remarked. Yeah, that is rather unusual, Penuel agreed. Maybe because this staff was created using a legendary artifact. Its one ability is for non-battle purpose, though. Jack commented about the Eye of Surveillance. This ability is for reconnaissance. I'm a bit disappointed. It can only spy on things 50 kilometers away. It would be cool if I could spy on things in another country, like when Janus used the Eye to watch the battle in Liguritum. Maybe if you disassemble the staff back to the original artifact you can, Penuel proposed. You mentioned me? Janus asked when he heard his name was mentioned. Nothing. I'm just happy all my weapons are legendary grades now. Hee. Jack chuckled. Oh, you don't mind parting with the Eye of Ilios, do you? It is yours, Janus said. That thing brings me enough trouble already. Jack immediately replaced his mana leech staff with this new magic weapon. He couldn't transfer his orb of Raijin yet. He would have to etch the staff before he could. He didn't review the other loots. He just picked them up and entered them into his inventory because, at that time, several loud booms were heard. The space was also shaking. He looked toward the source of this occurrence, Timezizes. Multiple earth pillars sprouted from the dragon and stabbed in all directions. The pillars went all the way to the edge of this pocket world, piercing its boundary. Those who were slammed by these earth pillars received large earth damage and were petrified. Several young Januses and the members from the 2 factions members were turned into stone. Timezizes unleashed his divine earth breath again, damaging and forcing all his assailants back. His breath attack also went on and hit the space's border. Cracks could be seen in the void wall and ceiling. He is fighting while looking for a way to escape, Jack said. Jack might be staying at the back here in safety, but his other 2 selves never stopped fighting. Janus was the same. He was contributing by controlling the young Janus clones. Dragon Jack had unfortunately been killed from the last breath attack. But before he died, he successfully sent his soul breath to Timezizes' eyes, forcing the dragon to shut his eyes. Lightning Jack was at the end of the divine skill's duration by then. He channeled his finishing mode onto his fist and rushed at the dragon. By the time he came into Timezizes' mana sense scope, it was too late for the dragon to dodge. His accumulated lightning fist slammed into Timezizes' belly. The powerful impact was enough to send the colossal dragon tens of meters back. Timezizes roared. His roar shook the entire space. The roar was out of both pain and anger. Anger that he was being humiliated by beings that should have been much weaker than him. Yet the pain was real. Even with his incredible defense, that last lightning attack took out tons of his health point. Timezizes stared at Jack in fury. The Jack who just attacked him had now returned to human form. This battle was unadvantageous for him. Even when his enemies were all weaker, there were just too many. As embarrassing as it was to admit, he knew the wise option was to flee, but he at least had to take out the Themisphere King first. Killing Jack was his entire purpose of being here. He charged forward. Now that Jack was back to his human form, he should be vulnerable. A gigantic figure came in his way. It was Ragorth, who had used Gigantify and was now 5 times his normal size. Out of my way! Timezizes yelled. With both an enlarged body and an enlarged weapon, Ragorth's strength multiplied exponentially. Even so, he was still dwarfed by Timeziz's. When his great sword and Timeziz's claw collided, he was still the one getting pushed back. However, he was successful in stopping Timeziz's charge. Multiple shadows appeared around him then. It was the assassin, Hashi, and his fellow faction members. They zipped around Timeziz's with speed almost unseen to the naked eye. Timeziz's clamped his jaws, producing a sound that almost shattered the air. This explosive sound hit the assassins who were jumping around him. They fell like flies hitting an electric fence. After carrying out a sound attack, Timeziz's was then hit by one. It was as if someone with a megaphone shouted right into his ear with the volume turned to the max. He felt his head spinning. This sound attack was another of Elaine's new skills, blaring noise. It didn't cause much damage, but this skill could daze almost any target. If this skill was used while the user was playing music, it became a sustained skill. The skill could be maintained until the user's music was stopped. Timeziz's found it hard to think under this mental attack. He gritted his teeth and used mana to erect a barrier around his mind. Elaine's skill could still seep into this mental barrier, but at least he could think properly. He located Elaine and couldn't believe his attacker had such a low level. The humiliation was unbearable. Elaine was not the only one troubling Timeziz's. There was also Howard, who kite from a safe distance. He was in his lightning-destroying arrow mode and was firing without reserve. He probably contributed the most DPS. But the same as Elaine, Timeziz's couldn't get to him. If Timeziz's forced his way, he could only choose one direction. He chose the direction toward Jack. Many hinder his way. Ragorth and Hashi with their surviving faction members, the young Januses, and Jack's other royal agents. Jonathan had unluckily been petrified during the earlier Earth Pillars attack. Jack's royal agents who engaged Timeziz's in the melee were Erin, Lindsay, and Robinson. Robinson was in his eagle form, flying in and out whenever he saw an opportunity. Lindsay used her katana and zipped around the dragon with fast movements. Aside from Erin, the two dealt minuscule damage, but they were distracting enough that Timeziz's had trouble focusing. Lauron and Amy played support using their healing spells. Duke Alfredo and Nerd joined Howard in applying DPS using their offensive spells. Timeziz's fought ferociously. What he thought was an easy battle today had turned into a laboring fight. He cast several spells while his limbs and tails smacked the flies that kept swirling around him. Lindsay had suffered several hits. Her condition was the worst, but she didn't show any fear. If not for Lawrence's golden plates protecting her body and Amy's healing, she would have died a while ago. "Lindsay, move back," Jack's voice ordered. Lindsay finally retreated after that direct order. Timeziz's turned back. The voice just now came from his back. He recognized Jack's voice. He had been fighting his way to get to one Jack when another one approached him from behind. He knew about Jack's double clone. He knew he had to take both Jacks out if he wanted to achieve his objective. The one at his back was closer, so he turned around. He noticed that the Jack behind him was using Evil Janus' staff. The eye sculpture at its top transformed into a real eye and fired a dark beam. He felt stinging pain when this beam hit him. This was one of the staff's abilities, Ilios Stare. The beam persisted, dealing chaos damage every second. Timeziz's roared while casting a spell. Hundreds of rock pellets were summoned. They battered everyone nearby, but a large portion was directed at Jack, who was firing Ilios Stare. The rock pellets flew past Jack as if he was an illusion. "What?" Timeziz's exclaimed in surprise. He clearly sensed Jack in the position. It shouldn't be an illusion. Jack was using the staff's other ability, vision bending. He had experienced this ability when Evil Janus used it. This ability not only shrouded one with invisibility, it also masked one's mana. It completely displaced the staff user's presence into a different place. When Evil Janus used it, only Spark, who had mana perception, was able to locate his position. Timeziz's didn't have that ability, so he was fooled. After a few more times trying to hit Illusion Jack without success, Timeziz's mouth opened wide as if he was about to unleash his divine earth breath. But instead of a beam, the yellow foams poured out in a ring shape. The ring fume hit everyone that surrounded him. This, of course, included Invisible Jack, who used vision bending. Illusion Jack vanished and Jack was exposed then. When Timezizes was about to attack, he felt a stinging pain in his back. Is it that accursed assassin again? Timezizes thought in his pain. He couldn't sense this attack coming. He turned around, but it was not Hashi. It was another Jack who had used Brave Slash with one word slash. Hashi was nearby. He was about to land another sneak attack when Timezizes was occupied, but Jack beat him to it. He was now staring at Jack in disbelief. His mana sense also couldn't detect Jack. This level of mana concealment was what made him believe he was the best assassin in the world. He found it hard to believe there was another person who had the same expertise as him. Jack's mana concealment had undergone a huge upgrade due to his practice using the Chalice of Blood. By learning how to camouflage his mana to infiltrate the artifact, he also learned how to mask his mana to make it appear as if common mana in the air. This practically made him invisible to mana sense. Even though Jack managed to land the powerful hit, he had brought himself too close. He was Timezizes' primary target. Timezizes ignored everything else and lunged at Jack. Jack was just about to cast Ghost Form, but Timezizes beat him by casting Cancel Magic. He was grabbed by Timezizes' massive hand. The dragon's jaws soon followed. After 3 rapid chompings, Jack died. The last clone turned into the real Jack. This one was still firing Ilios Stare at Timezizes. It was past 20 seconds now. The Ilios Stare was dealing maximum damage each second. The others also never stopped their offensive while Timezizes was preoccupied with Jack. His life was below half already. The dragon was alarmed when he learned about his health point. He never expected this band to pose such a menace. He did think about fleeing, but he thought he still had enough time to finish Jack off before he was forced to take this shameful act. He stared at the one remaining Jack. He was weighing the option whether or not to take the risk. Giant Ragorth was in his way. Hashi also never stopped harassing Timezizes from the shadows. These two were always the main combatants against the dragon. With the effect of the Divine Might potions, the two were able to go toe-to-toe with Timezizes, allowing the others the leeway to land their attacks. Timezizes also had a problem utilizing his mana manipulation because of Elaine's constant mental attack. He had to use mana manipulation to protect his mind. Hence, he was unable to use it during attacking or defending. After reviewing the situation, Timezizes decided to risk a bit more before splitting. He lowered his body into a crouching position. Almost the entire bottom part of his body was touching the ground. While he was doing that, he was leaving himself open. Almost everyone doubled their offensive effort except those in the front line who had mana sense. They could sense Timezizes' aura spiking. Due to that, they moved away instead. The dark ground below Timezizes suddenly alighted with a bright yellow color. This brightness spread abruptly and covered almost the entire ground within this space. Everyone suddenly felt their steps becoming heavy. Theauro, the ground turns into sand. Amy exclaimed. Everyone understood that what was beneath their feet was no normal sand. This transformed sandy ground seemed to pull at them. The gravity that affected them had doubled or tripled. Everyone had difficulty moving. Even those who were flying above like Robinson also felt his body getting pulled to the ground. While everyone was still flabbergasted by this situation, Timezizes vanished into the sand. Burrowing. Jack remembered this was the same ability as the Grim Sandrake from the past. The Ilios Stare was disconnected once Timezizes burrowed into the ground. Eternal Grade didn't show up in God Eye Monocle, so Jack couldn't tell where the dragon was now. Even his enhanced mana sense couldn't pierce too far into the ground to detect Timezizes' whereabouts. Gold dragon wings sprout on his back. He flew up to put some distance from the sandy ground, but his flight speed was slow because of the increased gravity. Before he was even 3 meters from the ground, he sensed something approaching the ground below him. The sand below him exploded. The huge jaws of Timezizes were about to swallow him whole. Jack was ready. He had been forming a spell formation while he flew up. He cast teleportation and appeared way up in the air. Timezizes couldn't prevent it since his cancel magic was still in cooldown. No flying Euro, Timezizes roared while casting a spell. It was the no-fly zone. Everyone lost their ability to fly and fell to the ground. In Jack's case, he fell directly toward Timezizes' mouth. When Jack was about to cast Wind Jet, he found himself being hit by a spell. He disappeared and reappeared on the ground away from Timezizes. Jack found that it was good Janice who had teleported him to safety. The others resumed their attacks when Timezizes resurfaced, but he soon vanished into the ground again. Damn it! He must be heading toward me again, Jack lamented. Without the ability to fly, he wasn't confident he could dodge the next attack. Everyone, follow my sound attacks, Elaine shouted. She had one hand on the ground. Her other hand was playing her zither strings. Several sonic darts shot forward and hit a spot on the ground. He is under there. The others didn't question how Elaine knew Timezizes' position. They attacked the spot where Elaine had indicated. Jack's royal agents were the first to act, but not all of them had ranged skills that could penetrate the ground. Howard fired his soul-penetrating arrow. Robinson used Key Blast. Lindsay stabbed into the ground using Drilling Thrust. Alfredo cast Spears of 100 Calamity, and Nerd cast Sunlight Spear. Damage numbers appeared indicating that they hit something down there, but those damages were greatly mitigated. It was Erin's spell, Revolving Ice Saw, that had a better effect. Her spell conjured a circular saw made of ice that revolved at high speed. It sliced through the sand neatly and dealt continuous damage as the ice saw cut its target repeatedly. A booming sound was heard as multiple sharp rocks erupted from the ground, hitting those who had attacked the ground. All of Jack's royal agents were blown back from that rock attack, including Erin. Elaine continued shooting her sound darts to let the others track Timezizes' movements. Based on her tracking, Jack retreated to keep a safe distance between him and the dragon. While others didn't understand how she achieved that feat, Jack had a rough idea. Elaine's mastery over sound granted her a sonar-like ability. By feeling the ground using her hand, she was able to detect the vibration caused by Timezizes' movement inside the ground. Giant Ragorth was the next to come to the spot where Elaine indicated. He pulled his giant greatsword high before stabbing it deep into the ground. As it did, a gigantic rune symbol appeared on the ground. Massive light erupted from the symbol, blowing all the sand upward. Following the eruption of the sand from the ground, a huge figure followed. If you are so eager to die, then let me fulfill your wish. Timezizes roared as he leaped out since the sand that hit him was gone. He took Ragorth by surprise and bit into his left arm. Argar Gayuro! Ragorth screamed in pain from the bite. Timezizes' massive claw then slammed Ragorth into the ground. He then had his heavy body pin the giant draconian warrior while slamming him repeatedly, causing damage with each slam. He let go of Ragorth's arm, which was wounded from the bite. He was about to bite into Ragorth's head when something sharp stung him in the side of his face. It was Hashi, who had again approached undetected. Hashi stepped on Timezizes' head and dropped several round things that stuck onto Timezizes' head before jumping away. These round things then created a chain explosion. The repeated explosion on Timezizes' head forced him to stop his offensive against Ragorth. Ragorth took this chance to deactivate his Gigantify skill and returned to normal size. He slipped away from Timezizes as he shrunk. 2 soothing lights fell on him, and he felt the wound on his left arm no longer hurt so much. His health point also went up a considerable chunk. He turned to the 2 who had healed him, which were Amy and Laurent. He gave them a grateful look. Now that Timezizes had come out in the open, the others resumed their offense. The League of Champions warriors and the Assassin's Guild's members swarmed the dragon while young Januses sent their spells. Timezizes spun his body in rage. His massive tail smacked all those around him. He looked at Jack again, who continued to keep a safe distance. Jack knew that as long as he kept Timezizes focusing on him, the dragon wouldn't be able to do much damage to the others. Hence, he kept up this kiting technique. He only sent ranged damage if the dragon came too close. Timezizes realized that the risk had become too great now. He would just have to look for another opportunity to deal with Jack. Now that he knew Goddess Serenity no longer protected Jack, Such an opportunity would surely come. He cast a spell. 6 large earth cones appeared around him. This earth cone spun at high speed like giant drills. The others didn't dare to approach because they were weary of how these earth drills would attack them. These earth drills aimed in Jack's direction and shot forward. At the same time, Timezizes fired his divine earth breath. Jack was prepared since he knew he was always Timezizes' target. He cast Wind Jet. His body shot out of harm's way as both the earth drills and breath attack shot by. The breath attack and the drills crashed into the void wall by the edge of this space. Cracks were seen, and soon after, the void wall shattered, creating a gap even bigger than when Ragorth and Hashi entered this place. "I will get you back another time," Timezizes growled at Jack. He ran toward this huge gap in the void wall. "Not so fast." Jack cast Time Realm. Timezizes found a barrier blocking his way. He also sensed his movement become sluggish. He slammed into this barrier. Before Timezizes' claw hit, the barrier at that spot seemed to shine brighter and become denser. When Timezizes' claw hit, he found this barrier resisted his strength. Jack was using mana manipulation on his Time Realm skill. But instead of slowing the time further, he focused his mana manipulation to strengthen the exact spot in the barrier where Timezizes was hitting. This act gave the barrier enough strength to withstand Timezizes' power, which was far stronger than Jack's. "You wretched thing!" Timezizes cursed. He slammed the barrier again, but it remained standing. He was still unable to use mana manipulation because Elaine had again sent him a disrupting mental attack. Otherwise, this barrier would have crumbled. While he was trapped, the others arrived and resumed their assaults. These assaults caused him to be unable to focus on breaking Jack's Time Realm. Hence, he remained trapped. The gap in the void wall he had created slowly mended. Before the Time Realm ended, the gap had fully closed. Timezizes lost his chance to flee this space. Furious, he fought recklessly. He no longer just targeted Jack. He wanted to destroy everyone here. This resulted in several more casualties. Among them were several members from the League of Champions and the Assassin's Guild. Several young Januses also fell. On the royal agent's side, Robinson and Lindsay lost their lives. Luckily, both Laurent and Amy had the resurrection spell. Jack and Duke Alfredo cast telekinesis to pull the two's bodies out. Laurent and Amy then resurrected the two. Jack ordered everyone to fight more reservedly. They couldn't afford for more to die now that Laurent and Amy's resurrection spell was on cooldown. Ragorth and Hashi looked at Laurent and Amy in envy when they resurrected their comrades. They wished the two resurrect their members as well, but they understood about the spell's cooldown. It was not strange for Laurent and Amy to prioritize their comrades first. Through an arduous battle, they finally reduced Timezizes' health point to almost 5%. The dragon appeared to have resolved to die. He no longer tried to escape, but he was determined to take more victims before he fell. A loud voice empowered by mana manipulation caused everyone to stop. "Everyone, please stop." Everybody stopped, even Timezizes. They all turned to the voice. It was Jack.